What's up, Guy and Potion? Happy Wednesday, y'all.
Welcome, Agent.
All right, the overlay's working again. I don't know what's going on with it, but awesome. Stream's kind of laggy. No. Hang on, I might be able to fix it. All right. I think that fixed it. I don't know what's going on with Twitch, but Twitch for some reason just wants to drop all the frames right when the stream first boots up. Oh, Guy, was that paperclip? Okay, I thought it might have been. I didn't know what it was, but that's pretty cool. All right. Make sure I got the stream monitors up. I think we're just about ready to cook. All right. Give me 1 sec, y'all. I'm going to go preemptively let Peaches out because she's already acting a fool. All right. Let's get the news stories pulled up because, man, do we have a lot of them. All right. I am just grabbing the rest of the news stories, but we'll go ahead and kick it off. Hang on. What's up, guys? What's up, everybody? Hang on one sec. I'm grabbing the rest of the news stories over from Discord. It was a very newsy news week. Man, I don't know how much of this we're going to get through. Let's see. AI agents are creating supply chain risk. A new Android 0 day. Microsoft Edge storing passwords in clear text. Some new models got a 12 million token context window. A DoD contractor exposed a bunch of military guys' personnel. Look at that. This is all the stuff we had bookmarked for tonight. Holy crap. Wait. Twitch is broken? It looks like it's running okay. It was broken at the start. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know what's the deal. But for some reason, as soon as I start the stream, it will just be lagging like crazy. Kicking YouTube, not a problem. But I got to restart Twitch. Twitch is Gucci. What's up, Chunk? Happy Wednesday. All right, let's see here. We have got a very heavy news week. It's a lot. And man, I just noticed something. Why is Star Fox trending over on X? Ooh, they're releasing a new Star Fox game? Sick. All right, we don't got time to watch the trailer. But if you like Star Fox and you're an old bag like me, go check it out. Let's see what we got here. We have a ton of stuff. Another supply chain attack. DoD contractor was just serving up some active military personnel's information. Let's see. Where to even start? My goodness, there's so much in here. Chrome is going to start shipping its own 4 gig model to your computers because you don't need all that RAM anyway. Let's see. 23-year-old college student in Taiwan hacked the high-speed rail system and brought everything to a halt. DigiCert's got more stuff going on. Let's see. Grok, I think, got tricked into sending an NFT to somebody. We have another one here from the awesome guys over at Watchtower. One of my absolute favorite security blogs on the whole internet. And then there's just... Look at all this. There's so much in here. Oh yeah, I've got that one flagged for tonight, Potion. We do. Hold on, okay, so let's take a look at these real quick. Because I have no idea what these are, but Potion sent them over. That looks like a proton pack. Like fake hacking prank at gas station. Hang on. You see what this does.
Sir.
Well, what is that?
Don't fucking worry about it.
Aggressive?
I'm just loading it up, okay? It's getting ready. I'm in the rainbed system, okay, buddy? Yep, we're doing good. We're chilling. I'm in the mainframe. I repeat, we're in the mainframe. You there? I'm in.
No, no, no.
What do you mean? No, no, no?
You call 911, bro.
What are you doing?
He pulled the card reader out. I was like, good move.
Oh, shoot. Ready when you are.
Dumbass. All right, those are pretty funny, but we got a ton of stories to actually get through tonight. All right, where to start off for today? Actually, yeah, this is a good one because we had somebody pop into the stream to ask about it. Should see the one about Burger King asking for the IP address. All right, I think this was the last one. No, that wasn't that one. Oh, that was the IP maxing one. If we got time at the end, I'll go grab a potion. But we've got, look at all this. Look at all this crap. It was a very busy news week. All right, let's kick it off. So Microsoft Defender is wrongly flagging a DigiCert certificate as a Trojan. And this was the exact one we had somebody pop into the stream and actually ask about. They asked for help. They were scared because they didn't know what it was doing. Triggering widespread false positives on Windows systems. Admins report certificates are being removed from the Windows Trust Store and is recent Defender signature updates. So what happened is 2 DigiCert root certificates were flagged as malware. Some systems removed the certs from the Authority Root Trust Store, and detection was added on April 30th to the Defender signature update. Microsoft eventually released fixes in the Security Intelligence Update version, yes. And the issue came shortly after a DigiCert breach, where the attackers gained access to a support system and a code signing certificate. Oh, that was funny. We kind of knew about this already. No, let me see what Microsoft actually said about this. Let's see. Oh, this is from Bleeping Computer, but anyway. Go away. So according to cybersecurity expert Florian Roth, he's an expert, the issue first appeared in Microsoft added detections on April 30th. Administrators worldwide began reporting that DigiCert root certificate entries were flagged as malware on affected systems and removed from the store. Can you imagine how many false positives that was throwing up in people's sims? And they're like, oh my god, all this Trojan. So on the impacted systems, the certs were removed from the off-store registry key. And the false positive have led to concerns among Windows users, with some thinking that their devices were infected or reinstalling their operating system to be safe. Good move, but also, if I had to do that, I'd be pissed if it was over a false positive. So Microsoft reportedly fixed it with an update. Let's see. Other reports on Reddit indicate the fix also restores the previously removed certificates. That's nice. Let's see. So after publishing the article, Microsoft confirmed that the false positives were linked to a detection for a compromised certificate from a recent DigiCert breach. So I guess they were trying to flag the leaked or those stolen code signing certs, and they messed it up. What else do we have here? Yeah, so following reports of compromised certificates, Microsoft Defender immediately added detections for malware in our Defender antivirus software to help keep customers protected. Earlier today, we determined false positive rates were mistakenly triggered and updated the alert logic. Do you guys not test this stuff? Like, for real? Because that DigiCert root CA certificate should have just been baked into Windows. Surely you've got a live QA testing system. No, it's microslop? Yeah, exactly. So the false positive occurred shortly after a disclosed DigiCert security incident that enabled threat actors to obtain valid code signing certificates to sign malware. Yep. Those leaked code signing certificates are gold. So a malware incident targeted a customer support team member. Upon detection, the threat vector was contained. Yeah, but the problem was you had a thing set up where you could go in and impersonate any one of your users fully as them. That was the problem with DigiCert in there. Hey, Cankles. Are we hacking today? No, we're doing news tonight. It is the hacker news for the week. And we got a lot of fun ones in here. Let's see. So after DigiCert said, yeah, we contained everything, our subsequent investigation found that the threat actor was able to procure initialization codes for a limited number of code signing certificates, few of which were then used to sign malware. The identified certificates were revoked within 24 hours of discovery, and the revocation date set to their date of issuance. So as a precautionary measure, pending orders within the window of interest were canceled, and additional details will be provided in the full incident report. When was this published? This was a couple days ago. Hold on. Bleeping Computers, I hate your site. This thing right here, I just scroll up one little bit and you give me that? I hate it. So this was just from a few days ago. But yeah, that's the fun part right there. So what did they do with this? Hold on. So apparently they went on to the Zong Stealer malware campaign. So this aligns with early reports from a security researcher who observed newly issued DigiCert EV certificates used in malware campaigns and reported them to DigiCert. So those researchers, including Scribbly-Doo, Malware Hunter Team, and Gonja, reported that the certificates issued to be to well-known companies such as Lenovo, Kingston, and Shuttle, and Pallet Microsystems were being used to sign malware. So what do those all have in common? EV certificates, which is extended verification, I think. I think that's what it stands for, and it's used for signing binaries whenever you make them. Yeah, it's Newsnet. So EV certificates from these companies were issued and used by the Chinese crime group Golden Eye Dog, or APTQ-27. These APT names, man, they kill me. The malware in the campaign was named the Zong Stealer. Sounds a bit like dong. Through analysis, indicates that it's become more like a remote access Trojan than an info stealer. And the researchers say that was being distributed through phishing emails, first stage executables that display a decoy image, retrieval from second stage payloads such as AWS, probably S3 buckets, and use of signed binaries and loaders, including components tied to legitimate vendors. Yeah, that's what I kept wanting to read it like that. Potion Dong Stealer. All right. OpenAI had some new announcement. What was this? Cybersecurity in the intelligence age. I hate this because it kind of implies that we're no longer in the dumb age. Well, actually, so the intelligence age implies that we were in the unintelligent or dumb age. And now it's implying that we're out of the dumb age. But I have seen what people do with jailbreaking AIs. And no, we're still in the dumb age. We absolutely are. The stupid age. Let's see. More OpenAI stuff. Artificial intelligence is reshaping cybersecurity. The same capabilities that help defenders identify vulnerabilities, automate remediation, and respond faster are also being used by malicious actors to scale attacks, lower barriers to entry, and increase sophistication. Heavy on the sophistication. The United States and its allies face a rapidly changing cyber threat environment, and private sector innovators have important responsibilities to help meet that challenge. OpenAI takes the responsibility seriously, and today we're publishing an action plan informed by conversations with cybersecurity and national security experts across the federal and state government and major commercial entities. Thanks, Chomp. It consists of, so their 5-point plan for this is democratizing cyber defense. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Anyway, number 2, coordinating across government and industry. That's never proven harmful in the past. Strengthening security around frontier cyber capabilities. Preserving visibility and control in deployment. Enabling users to protect themselves. So you're going to give everybody access to the top tier model at infinite tokens so they can just run their own SOC? Hey, Disclosure, what's up, man? You're gonna go over to DeepSeek and see what I've used over ChatGPT. So actually, I just set up something earlier today where it's a MCP server that will basically expose tools so that you can make interactions to other language models. So I went ahead and threw that into Claude Code. I have not completely abandoned Claude Code yet, but I'm not using it as much as I had been, honestly. And I put that in for Harvey. So now Harvey has access not only to the Claude models, but to Gemini, Grok, and DeepSeek. So it was just too much of a pain to go get signed up for the OpenAI API. Last I heard, you actually had to go through like a CYA system, and I didn't want to. So I use an individual plan for Claude. So yeah, I do the 5X plan, so it's like $100 a month out of my allowance. So let me see what their full kind of plan here is. This is a bit long-winded, so let's just kind of skim this real quick. So our approach is to treat these systems as too dangerous for broad defense use and limit them for a small number of approved partners. Oh, you're taking the Anthropic approach. Bravo. So we believe that misses the central challenge. Oh, sorry, this is not their approach. So I misread this. That's not our approach. That's one approach. Okay. Throwing shade at Anthropic. So we believe that misses the central challenge. Attackers will not wait. Existing models are already used for many cyber workflows, and capabilities will continue to advance. Criminal groups will adopt whatever tools are available. The best way to reduce national risk is to responsibly equip and accelerate trusted defenders faster than adversaries can adapt. The task now is to move with purpose and urgency, not panic. But I like panic at the disco. To attack decisively, act. I'm not reading right. To act decisively. I'm saying attack decisively. Act decisively. Put advanced capabilities in the hands of trusted defenders at every level, paired with safeguards and oversight needed to use them responsibly. So we already talked about kind of like what that was. Let's see. I'm going to kind of just breeze through this one real quick. So we're entering a world where frontier cyber capability is unlikely to remain concentrated within a small number of leading American labs for long. Advanced AI capabilities tend to diffuse quickly. Techniques spread, competitors adapt, research gaps narrow, and open source alternatives improve all the time. So the question is not whether advanced cyber capable AIs become globally available, it's almost certainly will, but whether democratic societies can collectively maintain today's temporary capability lead into a lasting defensive advantage before malicious actors catch up. Pretty much. Let me see. Hold on. So what are they talking about for their 5 pillars here? So trusted access for cyber is our mechanism for doing that. They're talking about democratizing cyber defense. So it creates a pathway for legitimate cyber experts to access more capable and more permissive models for defensive work while preserving safeguards against misuse. Trusted access users graduated tiers based on trust, mission need, and defensive impact, from standard users who are interested in hardening their personal code to organizations capable of protecting others at scale. Ooh. So they're working on expanding access to government defenders at every level, scaling through industry. So we'll prioritize industry actors whose defensive work can protect thousands or millions of downstream users, including major security platforms, hyperscalers, infrastructure providers, critical infrastructure operators. Oh, I can't wait. I want them to go turn a language model loose on an IoT, not an IoT system, like an OT system, occupational technology, SCADA type networks, because those things will just fall over if you sneeze on them wrong. If you go turn an AI system onto them, it's going to be a bloodbath. Let's see. Also, they're talking about reaching smaller critical infrastructure providers like hospitals, school districts, water utilities, municipalities, and local infrastructure providers lack the capabilities to obtain frontier models directly. Yeah, those municipalities, those are the ones that are going to have the SCADA systems that they mess up. I'm calling it now. Let's see. All right, so what about coordinating across government and industry? Aligning on the threat model, sharing operational threat intelligence faster, prioritizing sectors and uses. All of this would not be necessary a lot of times. Don't get me wrong, some of it is, like the way that a lot of the AI models are able to go find bugs and do it very efficiently now because the harnesses have improved, the model's thinking have improved. That's important. But a lot of this can be done, like if they had just gone back to fundamental cybersecurity practices, like everybody's been beating the drum on. Before, they're like, oh, well, the attacker can only move so fast, right? You had a human element. Now they can move much faster. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, I'm very curious about this part. So I'm skipping over, what is this? Strengthening security around cyber capabilities. Yeah, I'm sure you are. Preserving visibility and control in deployment. Because visibility into what a language model is doing is very opaque at best. Hey, Hats, what's up, dude? Good evening, my fellow Fed. Wait, no, I'm not a Fed. Just everybody in chat. Oh, also, Hydrogen, what's up, dude? I got Quinn 3.6 with 35B running on a Xenon from 2014. 8 tokens per second. For running on a Xenon from 2014, or Xeon, I should say. I don't know, is that Xenon? I don't know. But that's pretty decent. Let's see. All right, so what are they doing on this preserving visibility thing? So broadening access to advanced cyber-capable AI models paired with the visibility and control needed to detect misuse, enforce safeguards, and respond as the threat landscape evolves, deployment is not binary. Responsible deployment includes controlling who has access to what capabilities and maintaining oversight to ensure they're not abused. So for general users, we're going to continue investing in robust default safeguards such as model behavior, and automated system protections like classifiers, so forth. For higher trust and mission relevant users who are given access to more permissive and capable AI models for cyber tasks, access should be tiered based on identity, use case, security posture, and defensive impact. So as models become more capable or permissive in dual use cyber arenas, obligations should increase accordingly, including identity verification, that's the CYA I was talking about, legal attestations, baseline security commitments, abuse reporting, and monitoring designed to reduce misuse while enabling legit defense work. I know, but I never know how to say it, Hats. I know what Xenon is. You're full of crap, Gumby. I know what Xenon is. And I know what a Xenon processor. Whatever. I know there's an extra N. It's supposed to be Xeon, Xeon. I can't help it. It's a Xenon processor. And everybody I know calls it a Xenon processor. Let's see. Okay, I'm also very curious in this part, enabling users to protect themselves. So every person deserves access to tools to help them stay safe online. The greatest public benefit of advanced cyber capability tools will come not from helping a handful of chosen users, but from raising the baseline of security across society. Security is no longer only an enterprise or government challenge. Individuals and families are increasingly having to deal with the potential consequences of cyber misuse, targeting phishing, fraud, identity theft, account compromise, and increasingly sophisticated scams enabled by AI. Like, for example, there's a lot of like AI-powered sextortion that's happening, right? And the only way to deal with that is you've got to call their bluff. So there was a story about this lady and her 12-year-old son basically calls her crying because for some stupid reason, because he's 12, there's no other explanation needed. He sends a picture of his face to some unknown number that was texting him. And then they generated, and he gave in mind, he's 12, a bunch of very lewd pictures of him and said, we're going to send this to everybody. And I'm just going to tell my kids, hey, when this happens, you just got to reply back, I'm your Huckleberry. And then what do? Thankfully, she got really good advice. You go to the feds because that is still considered CSAM, right? So hopefully, if those people are dumb, they get caught and they go to jail for a very long time. For one, just being terrible people. And for two, being extraordinarily terrible people. Xeon Shmeon, it's all just baked sand. It is. It's all just carefully cooked sand. This recipe's been perfected over a long, long time. So AI, let's keep going back to whatever they were saying here. AI can also help close the gap by making expert-grade security guidance available to ordinary users in moments that matter. So ChatGPT can help users identify suspicious messages, understand potential scams, secure their accounts. Can it really, though? I mean, I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying that's a lot of use cases for stuff that should be more or less fairly automatic. Adopt stronger passwords and use multi-factor. Dude, if everybody banging the drum on this for the last umpteen years isn't going to do it, an AI model's not going to do it. All right, enough of that. We got more stuff to go through. Let's see. Oh, this was oh man, this was bad. This was terrible bad. This is a story about a guy named Miles Taylor, a quote anonymous former DHS chief of staff, Google security executive, who launched a website called GTFO ICE that collected your full name, email, phone number, and zip code to join in a bunch of anti-ICE rapid response network teams, and published the user information via a public API. There were 17,662 people signed up. The sign-up data is exposed on a full public REST API with no true authentication or rate limiting, and the full records were basically full records of all that information. So the man who ran the third largest federal department with about 250,000 employees and a $60 billion budget oversaw election security architecture and led counterterrorism operations, served as Google's head of national security policy, can't secure his own sign-up form. That's brutal. Oh, man. Yeah, so there's some evidence of it here. There was another one. Hold on. I think they've actually got a... No, they don't have an article about it. But yeah, International Cyber Digest also covered it. Like I said, all those people that signed up for it, they're just blatantly exposed. Getting ripped. Oh, now this one. Give all your passwords, tokens, and keys to an AI. Give it access to X. Ask it to secure your account and report by posting on X. Sell the X feed for pay-per-view TV. That would be pretty funny. Let's see here. Hold on. I think there's some other ones in here. When was this one posted? Hang on, because I'm trying to get these in chronological. This one was May 2nd. This is about HackerOne. Okay, I guess these are two similarly related ones in here. I thought there was more to that in here. But yeah, check this out. This was at 12:16 p.m. This one was at... Okay, so yeah, we'll go in this order. This is from Haxer DZ. I'm guessing he's Korean? Flag of North Korea. Hold on, I gotta look at something on his account. Where is it? Somewhere in here, it shows you like where they're from, right? Connected via the Algeria App Store. Based in Algeria. It's funny. But this was an interesting report that I saw. So HackerOne just got a company breached. ClickUp's April 27th data leak, directly caused by HackerOne's triage failure. They disclosed a critical report with 893 exposed emails and a live API token they closed this as a duplicate twice. And their AI or analysts auto-closing valid findings as, I think you meant informational here, while real vulnerabilities went and festered. So this wasn't a one-off. HackerOne did it to ClickUp at least 3 times. So if you run a bug bounty on HackerOne, your security is in the hands of broken triage. So hold on, I didn't hear about this. Let's see. April 27th. What happened with our feature flag configuration? So on April 27th, security researcher publicly disclosed that ClickUp's client-side feature flag configuration exposed personally identifiable information. Specifically, 893 customer email addresses were embedded in feature flag targeting rules. Oh. Along with one flag that improperly referenced a customer's API token. Oh no. So this was used during an incident response to rate limit traffic in the workspace. So we should have caught this sooner, and we didn't. And we owe a clear explanation of what happened and why. Okay, at least they're owning it. That's first step. All right, so what was the technical issue? So ClickUp uses Split.io, which is now part of Harness, for feature flag management. Like most browser-side feature flag SDKs, Split.io requires a client-side SDA key embedded in the application's JavaScript bundle. So this key is intentionally public, and it's how the SDK evaluates flags for the current user in the browser. And this is a standard documented behavior and similar platforms like this, so it's not considered a vulnerability. Right, there's some API keys that do just have to be exposed, and so they're not meant to have wide reach in them. Let's see, so the key was not the issue. What our engineers put inside the flag configurations is. So here's what happened architecturally. Feature flag platforms allow engineers to target specific users for future rollouts. ClickUp engineering team had used email addresses directly in the flag's targeting rules. Oh no. So an example is to enable certain features for beta testers. The Split.io SDK's publicly queryable split changes endpoint returns the full set of feature flag definitions, including these targeting rules. So this means that anyone with the client-side key, which is baked into their SDK, could retrieve those flag definitions and extract the email address embedded in them. Engineers treated flag configurations as internal tooling when the SDK architecture makes them publicly queryable by design, and that allowed the email address to accumulate in a place they never should have been. Feature flag updates require 1+ peer review, similar to code, and the review step didn't catch this. Ooh. I'm actually joking about this agent because people whatever that one people fancy running on Mac Minis. Oh, that was what do they call it now? OpenClaw? Is that the name of it? I forget. They changed the name so many times. I think it's OpenClaw. Basically, it gives the agent unlimited access to your password manager, and people use it to make personal news aggregation. Oh no. There's been times I have given some agents particular access, like scope down API keys. But yeah, I'm not going to go give it everything. My wife just asked me for a paperclip. I don't even know what that is. Oh, Paperclip's an AI management platform for like an AI company. He says I'm frosting at the mouth. Oh, too funny. All right. That's hilarious. So essentially, if you don't know what feature flags are, guys, for example, a lot of times they'll be controlled in environment variables or for other things like that. But what they were doing is they wanted to A/B test or just expose certain features in their product to a subset of users. And what they did, though, was they left that more or less in the code side, or they left it where it's exposed and anybody could query it from Split.io. So all those people's email addresses were let out. Oh, that's funny. It's not as bad as this guy made it sound. But hold on. Actually, let's go down to the triage here, because he actually highlighted it in this. There's the timeline. Okay, where our process failed. So 3 things went wrong here, and we want to name each one clearly. 1, no second order follow-through on the original report. So on January 2025, bug bounty reports could have resulted in an engineering task and a review of what data was living inside the flags config, and it didn't. So we updated our triage process to prevent this from happening again in the future. Number 2, HackerOne mishandled the duplicate closure. April 2026 report documented substantially new impact compared to the January 2025 report. It should not have been closed as a duplicate by HackerOne. On further review, we identified 2 other instances of similar reports being closed. One in September of 2025, and one in January of 2026. So we're working with HackerOne to address the gaps in their triage process, and we'll be including a secondary review of all the HackerOne reports to ensure we aren't reliant on third-party processes moving forward. Nice. And then number 3 was, actually this would have been number 1, dude. This number 1 wasn't no second order follow through. No, number 1 was the flaw you actually introduced. The second and third were the compensating controls that failed. Let's see. I don't think there was a CVE assigned for this one because it's a configuration fault. It's not like a technical bypass or anything. Hats. But yeah, so our email service flagged researchers escalation in spam. So on Saturday, actually, hold on, I take that back. This might have been something different. Our email service flagged the researchers escalation in spam. So on Saturday, April 25th, the researcher emailed both our CEO and DM'd ClickUp's X account. We didn't see these emails until after the public post. They were found following an internal investigation into spam folders and XDM filtering. Oh, that's pretty bad. Number 1, actually, where our process failed, number 1 was not doing a proper review of everything. Oh, man. Actually, so the same guy, Hackers DZ, Hacker D's nuts. To be secure in 2026, you have to shut down your bug bounty program on HackerOne. Lovable got hacked because HackerOne's incompetent triage team closed multiple valid vulnerability reports starting in February of 2026 as intended behavior. Poorly trained monkeys, zero escalation to lovable security team, AI bots auto-closing critical findings. And the result is public project chat history and source code were exposed for months until a researcher was forced to go public. So both ClickUp and Lovable had used HackerOne for this. Man, this guy really does not like HackerOne. I have no love lost for them, but he's really just like, you guys screwed up, don't do them, don't use them. Let's see. Oh, another fun one here. Who did I see this from? This is from, I saw it from Shoshona Weissman, Sloth Community Chair. I don't know what that is, but some children are drawing on fake mustaches to bypass online age checks. A third of children in the UK have bypassed age verification gates. Let's see. Children are drawing on mustaches and entering fake birthdays to bypass online age gates to access social media and gaming platforms. It found more than a third of children in the UK have found a way around age verification measures implemented as part of the Online Safety Act, which requires all pornographic sites, social media, and online platforms likely to be accessed by children to check their age. Social media websites usually require children to be at least 13 and users of prawn sites at least 18. The new research suggests that 1 in 6 parents have helped their children to get past age verification. %? Yeah, I'd say at least 16% of the population is an idiot. Yeah, new research suggests 1 in 6 parents have helped their children bypass age verification checks, with children reporting tricking platforms into thinking they're older. Parents have also said they had caught their children drawing on facial hair in a bid to evade the technology. One mother said, I did catch my son using an eyebrow pencil to draw a mustache on his face, and it verified him as 15 years old. Oh, that's beautiful. Imagine if they just went to a makeup store and got a real fake mustache and a gray wig, right? And hell, just go to Goodwill, right? Get an old pair of glasses somebody threw into Goodwill. You know, the big honking ones. I bet you could at least get 45 out of that. So the report from the online safety organization Internet Matters found around half of the children said they had recently been asked to verify their age on a social media or gaming platform. From a sample of 1,000 UK children, 46% said they believe age checks are easy to bypass, while 32% admitted to having done so. And that's just the ones that admitted it. Researchers also found 49% of children said they had encountered harmful content online recently. You think? I think the big problem is people not watching what their kids are doing on the internet. They use it like a babysitter. The internet is not a babysitter. The internet is fucking Mad Max world. You know, welcome to the Thunderdome. Would it verify a girl with a mustache? I don't know. Ken, test it out. Let me know. Well, so what's up, dude? For a fake ID in the past, I literally photoshopped a photo and a date and a birth with a Sharpie and a pencil. Nice. Let's see. What else did they say here? So the report said changes suggest the Online Safety Act is beginning to shape children's online environment for the better. Not really. You're limiting access to the ones that can't figure it out, which is probably for the best. If they can't even figure out how to get around it, they probably don't need to be on there. Well, hell, even the ones that can figure it out probably don't need to be on there. But called on the government to hold regulators and platforms to account. Children continue to encounter harmful content at unacceptable rates, while age verification measures are often ineffective in practice or easy to bypass. So the government must ensure existing legislation is properly enforced and hold both regulators and platforms to account where it is not. It must also address gaps in the law without delay. That's how I imagine anybody in the EU Parliament talking. So it comes as the government consults over whether to introduce a wide range of age curbs and limitations on social media for under 16s. Department for Science, Innovation, and Technology spokesperson said the law is, quote, crystal clear in demanding platforms protect children from harmful content. Companies must stop turning a blind eye to where children are exposed to harm. Get it? Okay, is there anything else useful in here? No, okay, it's just a bunch of quotes. But yeah, that cracked me up. That cracked me up. Just drawing the mustache. Wilma Flintstone used a fake mustache to sneak into the Water Buffaloes meeting, so I bet that would work. Dude, that's an old callback, Ken. That's an old callback. There's a standing rule in my house. Learn to elevate privileges and change DNS mask rules on your machine to get unlimited internet. I have thought about doing something the same, hats, with whenever the kids get old enough to like really get on the computer, like put them into like jails with some escapes, and then if they can break out of that, then it's like, okay, cool, you get a little bit more power now. And then confine them some more and basically make it like a CTF. They got to earn their privileges on the machine. Oh, that'd be funny. All right, I think this one is... No, this isn't it. So, also, guys, there was a new cPanel exploit happening. So, on April 29th, CVE 2026-41940 was disclosed. A critical pre-authentication bypass in cPanel that lets remote attackers skip the login flow entirely and gain elevated access. Within 24 hours, it was already being weaponized. Census watched the fallout in real time. So a 6-day time lapse of cPanel hosts that were flagged as malicious. 117, then it dropped. 106, then it dropped. 146, then it dropped. And then from April 30th, it goes from 146 to May 1st, 15,448. That's rip. On May 1st alone, the total malicious hosts jumped to 19,131. And 15,302 of those, roughly 80%, were cPanel systems. Compare that to the prior days where cPanel made up only about 1.2% of the daily changes. So with roughly 1 million cPanel hosts exposed on the public internet and only about 9,600 currently flagged as malicious, the attack surface is enormous and growing. At least 2 campaigns are running in parallel. A Mariah botnet variant called Nuclear X86 deployed post-compromise, and a ransomware campaign tied to Sorry Hidden Tier family. These names are crap. This should be I cry from the chair in the corner while my wife is... Never mind. Anyway. So yeah, a lot going on. Hold on, what does Census have to say about this? Did they have any greater intel into what's going on with cPanel? Let's see. Hold on, let me go back here a little bit. So we identified an unverified post on X from a user claiming that the cPanel vulnerability was being used to deploy the Mariah variant of the Nuclear X86 stuff. So we wanted to dig further. We obtained a sample of the reference binary, analyzed it to determine whether cPanel exploitation was built directly into the malware or whether compromised servers were being used to deploy the payload post-exploitation. Found no evidence that cPanel was implemented as an attack module in that binary, so that suggests the malware is being deployed after the initial compromise. That makes sense. Let's see. So for the potential cPanel campaigns, while we were writing this report, we noticed a distinct pattern across a subset of cPanel hosts. Roughly 7,000 servers were exposing open directories, while every file in the listing suffix with .sorry, and those open directories did not exist yesterday. So this immediately stood out as uniform file renaming, and this is a common indicator of ransomware activity where the files are encrypted and renamed during the process. RIP. The .sorry file extension has previously been associated with hidden tier variant of the Sorry ransomware. And you can find a ransomware note that says, contact us through QuickStop tool. What is QTalks? I've never seen QTalks before. Hold on, what is this? Bringing all those Claude Caveman mode people love. Oh, dude. I thought about loading up the caveman one, but I thought it was going to mess with Harvey too bad because Harvey's highly customized. So this repository and QTalks are unmaintained. Due to lack of resources, the repository is no longer maintained. So what is QTalks? Hold on, I'm curious. This was archived last year. Is this like some kind of encrypted messenger? So you want them to go download and use... What is QTalks? Has anybody seen this before? Faux online messages, history, screenshot. I mean, it's obviously a chat app, but like, what the heck makes it awesome? Hold on. I gotta go find out now, because I'm curious why they're using this. I love a Git repo that has everything except the description of the project. I know, right? Okay, so QTalks is an open source instant messenger offering encrypted peer-to-peer chat, video, and voice. Oh, that's why. Gotcha. Okay, so that's why they do it, because it's a peer-to-peer system. Interesting. Learn something new every day. All right, another weird one here from Tom's Hardware. Utah is the first state to hold websites liable for users who mask their location with VPNs. Law goes into effect designed to prevent bypassing age checks. I cannot wait to read about this one because I would love to know how they're going to plan on enforcing this. I don't know how it's legal. It seems like it's a brash overreach, hats. Let's see. Senate Bill 73 holds websites liable for users who mask their location. So Utah's online age verification amendment, formerly Senate Bill 73, took effect. Took effect now because it is May 6th, making the state the first in the U.S. to explicitly target VPN use as part of the age verification legislation. Signed by Governor Cox. Sounds like an appropriate name. On March 19th, the controversial law establishes that a user is considered to be accessing a website from Utah if they are physically located there, regardless of whether they use a VPN or proxy to mask their IP address. It also prohibits covered websites from sharing instructions on how to use a VPN to bypass age checks. Well, I got bad news for you there. Using a VPN is just using a VPN. Everything else is a secondary knock-on effect. NordVPN has called the law an unreasonably complex paradox and a liability trap, arguing that it holds websites responsible for identifying users whose tools are specifically designed to be unidentifiable. The EFF warned that the legal risk could push sites to either ban all known VPN IPs or mandate age verification for every visitor globally. I would say it goes a little bit further than that. And that is... So what's the scenario here, right? So let's say you got a kid in Utah who goes to a naughty naughty site and somehow law enforcement finds out about it and they're like, hey, naughty naughty site, why didn't you block this kid? And we're like, we had no proof this kid even joined our site. Well, hey, we see all your stuff in his browser, so how could he have not visited your site? We don't know. It's like, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to say? I was like, well, we know he visited your site because, yeah, but we have no evidence that he visited our site because this user connected from a system that's not there. And plus, this is only talking about using public VPNs. There's other ways to just not use a VPN provider. There's a ton of other ways. Let's see. I'm 99% sure this breaks some sort of constitutional stuff. Yeah. Let's see. So going back to the article, this is from Tom's Hardware. They also say the law is technically flawed, given that it assumes what a web browser can reliably detect VPN traffic and determine a user's physical location. And they can't. IP reputation databases such as MaxMind and IP2Proxy can flag traffic from known data center IP ranges, but commercial VPN products or providers rotate addresses constantly, and residential VPN endpoints are largely indistinguishable from a standard home connection. Autonomous system number analysis can catch traffic originating from data center networks, but can't identify a personal WireGuard tunnel running on a cloud VPS. That's what I was just talking about. Or, for example, which routes through the same infrastructure as an ordinary web hosting. The only detection method that reliably identifies VPN protocol signatures is deep packet inspection, which analyzes traffic at the network layer, not system or app level. Yeah, exactly. China's Great Firewall and Russia's TSPU system deploy deep packet inspection via the ISPs, but a website operator can't because it requires access to a network infrastructure that sits between the user and the server, not the server itself. Boom! Nailed it, Tom's Hardware. Oh yeah, not sponsored by Jocko yet. So how can you tell if it's a VPN if they just spin IPs? What if I use a personal VPN to Office? Is that illegal now? Yes. Yes, no VPNs. No VPN for you. What state was this? Utah? Utah's going to become the VPN Nazis now. So meanwhile, setting up a personal WireGuard instance on any major cloud provider takes minutes, meaning the law has more likely a negative impact on non-technical users who rely on a commercial VPN service for legitimate privacy, like journalists, people living under authoritarian regimes, political dissidents, abuse survivors. Okay, I can see that one, and others. Utah isn't alone in trying to legislate the impossible into being. In the UK, the House of Lords Parliamentary Secondary Chamber voted 207 to 159 in January to ban VPN services for under 18s, with those amendments now due to be debated in the House of Commons. VPN use jumped by more than 1,400% on the first day of age verification enforcement in July last year. Meanwhile, France's Digital Affairs Minister, Anne Le Henoff, anyway, has said that VPNs are next on my list. Wisconsin considered similar VPN provisions earlier this year, but scrapped them due to heavy backlash. Well, I'm glad that there was heavy backlash, but there's also just technical infeasibility. So to date, the only countries that have made progress in blocking VPN traffic with some success are authoritarian regimes with ISP-level surveillance. Yeah, good job. You're taking a playbook out of China and Russia. Way to go. That's right, 57. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. Hey, Ford, what's up, dude? And Kaiju, what's going on? Hold on, I'm catching up on this chat real quick here. Would this fall under search and seizure laws? No, it wouldn't, because the onus for this is supposed to be on whatever the website hoster is, the provider, the person maintaining the site, but they can't get a reliable way to tell. There's a little bit of a way that you might be able to do that, which is if they come from an extremely shit tier VPN, then yeah, you can say that but a lot of the VPN providers, like the article was saying, they rotate their IPs pretty constantly. So they might eventually be able to get a new list, but then they're just going to rotate it back off there. They should just ban doing illegal stuff. That would be the same net effect. Exactly, right. They just need to make a law saying everything that's illegal is illegal. Wait a sec. Let's see. Nobody ever clicked on the I am over 18 to view porn, so this should work. Yeah, exactly. Everyone always answered that correctly. Hey, Upla, what's up? I'm in the market for a new monitor. Have any recommendations? Get an OLED. That's the only thing I know. I'm still using the same monitor I've had for, I don't know, 8 years. It was one of the kind of first ultra wides from Asus. It still works. It's doing great. I wish it was an OLED. What was this Gumby sent here? Hang on. Since we're talking about the constitutionality of that, what is this? Ah, come on. Wait, hold on. I know how I can open that. Stand by. I can get it from over here. Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated and purposeful, the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of individuals to be protected against unwarranted invasions and their privacy stemming from federal agencies, collection, maintenance, use, and disclosure of personal information about them. So this has to do with like information on the government side. They're trying to push all the onus for that over to like Utah, right? Hang on, let me clear this out real quick. And we'll talk about like why this is not practical. So let's look at what this scenario kind of looks like, right? So we got little Jimmy over here. Jimmy wants to visit some site out on the internet, right? So here's what we go. So we've got some site, I don't know, we'll just call it corn, right? He wants to visit a site for corn, right? And even though Jimmy shouldn't be on there, let's just look at the technical feasibility of this, right? So we have two options right here, right? Jimmy talks out to the internet and then talks to corn, right? Then the corn site finally comes through and says, hey, where are you from? Right? Well, they can use a couple different methods, but usually they're probably going to be something like Max Minds, right? Max Minds is going to come through and roughly tell them what their geographic location is based on their IP address. And if they see that and it's like, oh, you're coming from a state where we're blocking that, boop, sorry, your site is just blocked. So what other option does little Jimmy have? Jimmy goes over to something like, I don't know, we'll call it Board VPN, right? Now, what happens to little Jimmy's traffic? It goes like this. It doesn't take a direct route over to corn. It goes out to the internet, goes to Board VPN, and then from some other place out on the internet, in fact, hold on, let's extract this a little bit. Some little server that Board VPN actually has will then actually take the traffic, come over here, then send it out to the internet, to then finally go access corn. And then from Max Minds, they may or may not know that this is part of Board VPN's setup. And just say, okay, you're good. So how does this guy supposed to know? There's nothing in this scenario that says, hey, we can use the information of what do you have? You're going to have an IP address. That's pretty much it. Especially if little Jimmy here has started incognito like a boss, right? You're going to have an IP address. There's not going to be any identifying cookies, anything else in that conversation that's going to identify that this is happening from a non-legitimate site. So they're trying to say that, hey, from a simple IP address, of which there are billions, you should be able to tell that little Jimmy over here is in Utah. Utah? Nah, not Utah. But I'm IP maxing. That's right. There's no constitutional violation if the government contracts out the violation. No freaking kidding, man. That's a loophole I personally feel should be absolutely closed. There should not be third-party circumvention of constitutional protections. Oh, just because I used a site doesn't mean they should needlessly hand over information for me to whatever government agency is asking for it. Yeah, none of us are lawyers, Potion. So at least nobody in the chat has identified themselves as a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. All of y'all are feds. You're not lawyers. So there's not going to be any like groundbreaking legal analysis happening here, but I'm sure there could be something made. Visit the site using IPv6 and see how great Max Minds is. That would be awesome. All right, what was this one? I think Bobby sent this one over. This is from CTF Mon from hosted up on Vercel. Every keystroke you press goes through a process that doesn't need to. CTF Mon, a 25-year-old leftover of Office XP. Damn, that's old. It still runs in the background of every Windows PC. even ones that never type in Japanese, never use handwriting, and never touch speech recognition. Here's how to take it out of the loop without breaking your system. Okay, this is cool. So CTFmon is intercepting every keystroke. It shows constant context switch activity. The red arrows point to CS switch delta values that climb every time you press a key on the desktop. Interesting. So DWN is also doing work, as it should. The green arrows on DWM and CSRSS show the parts of the windows that are supposed to handle this. Interesting. So the problem is CTFmon does not need to be in this list at all. It's intercepting input that DWM is fully capable of handling on its own. So this 25-year-old leftover process is sitting in the input path of every key you press. Every key you press. Sorry, I couldn't help myself there. I took the LSAT, so that's close enough, right? All right, so this is actually really interesting. So I love this diagram here. So what a keystroke actually does. Toggle the switch. Watch now the extra hops it takes. Okay. So how it works right now. Keyboard sends something to Windows Core, which notifies CTFmon. And then that goes to MSCTF and then text input service. Input still flowing through DWM over to your app. And that's the desktop window manager. I think that's what DWM is. So our fix is just that. Okay, perfect. I love it. So how do we get rid of CTFmon? So here's where it gets interesting. Some games escape CTFmon, some never do. The rules for which make no sense. Oh, thank you, dear. Sock brought me tea. Because she loves me. Thank you, dear. And it's in my ultra nerdy Star Wars mug. Everyone said hi. That does count, Gumby. Shut up, baby. I know it. All right, so how does this... Actually, I'm curious about this. I'm talking about some games don't will bypass or escape CTFmon. Overwatch is fairly consistent across restarts. CTFmon usually stays quiet during play. Some optimizations in the rendering chain seem to bypass it. Borderless versus full screen sometimes flips this behavior. Switching modes can make CTFmon go quiet in some games. In others, it has no effect at all. Counter-Strike 2, the most popular shooter in the world, CTF... Is it still? Damn, that's an old game. CTFmon tracks input regardless of full screen or windowed or borderless. Nothing in the game disables it. So the only fix for games like CS2 is a registry tweak. There's no in-game setting of the display to disable CTFmon. This is a little bit disjointed, but I like what we've got going on here. So CTFmon is the old framework. The newer framework is TSF, which is an upgraded version of it. And then, well, basically, the modern one over here is DWM. So there was all these iterations here, but for some reason, CTF is still just hanging out back here. All right, so yeah, I want to know what the solution to this is. So the two edits that change everything. Back at first, export the relevant keys or a system restore point. Some Windows builds may behave slightly differently. Test in a low-stakes environment first. So first thing is to stop it from intercepting. So basically, go to your HK local machine, take these two values, and set both D words to 0. Okay, fairly straightforward. Or option 2, the advanced route, trick the service into failing. I like that route. Doing a forced crash on a system that I don't want running is actually kind of my preferred route. So point the service at a different file that doesn't know how to do its job. So the service tries to start, it gets confused, gives up, but Windows still thinks the service is there. Okay, I like that. Proof the tweak works. Impact. It's not just about saving CPU. 20-year-old security hole built for a world that no longer exists. It taxes every single keystroke. Well, that's a big deal in Windows 11 because, my God, is it a resource hog. That's interesting. I'm going to leave that one up because I might actually go tweak this computer later. Let's see. What else do we have in here? We got the Grok NFT thing. Workers revolting over AI. Digicert hacked. We kind of already talked about that one. Taiwanese guy hacking the trains. Google Chrome's 4 gig model. Huntress came out with something called Ouroboros. Self-sustaining credential extraction in Windows Server. Nice. Let's see. What could we cover next? AI agents are creating a new supply chain crisis. Yep. Actually, let's look at this one real quick. Critical Android zero-click vulnerability grants remote shell access. Google published this in May 2026. Let's see. Is that the only article for this? My favorite thing was this comment right here. So I can finally root my S23 without blowing a fuse. Nice. Oh yeah, Ford, we were discussing that, I think, a little bit before you came in. What was going on with Digicert. That was just a different take on it. The main issue is CTF mod would mess up some inputs in things like games, making delays higher, or not even registering. Got it. All right, let's take a look at this one, because I haven't seen a good, like, critical RCE in Android in a while. Google published in May 2026 an Android security bulletin alerting the ecosystem to a highly severe remote code execution. Tracked as CVE 2026-73, the critical vulnerability resides deep within the core Android system component. So it allows an attacker to gain remote shell access without requiring a single tap, download, or click. I think you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network from what I was reading from some of the folks talking about it. Let's see. They can launch this attack proximally, meaning they only have to be in the same local network or physical proximity to exploit vulnerable mobile devices. Let's see. So the root cause of this lies within the ADBD subcomponent, the Android debugging bridge daemon. Developers traditionally utilize this system service to communicate with the device, run terminal commands, and modify the system's behavior. Because the flaw grants remote code execution as a shell user, attackers can bypass normal application sandboxes. They don't need any special execution privileges or user interactions to deploy their malicious payload. So imagine the debugger service as a restricted maintenance store on a secure corporate building. So the vulnerability acts like a master key that works over wireless connections, allowing an intruder to quietly unlock the door and issue commands to the building's internal systems without the security guard even noticing. You know, for something called cybersecurity news, I'd expect this to be a little bit more technical. I mean, I appreciate a good analogy, but I like to hit them hard with the technical details and then give the analogy. Damon, that's right. So this frictionless level of access makes the vulnerability highly dangerous and incredibly attractive to advanced threat actors. Because the debug service is a project mainline component distributed via the Google Play system updates, the flaw affects multiple recent generations of the operating system. I wonder if this affects Graphene OS. Probably does. Android 14, 15, 16, and 16 QPR2 devices are currently at risk. Google has resolved the critical issue in the May 1 security patch, and all Android hardware partners were notified of this vulnerability at least a month in advance to help them prepare over-the-air firmware updates. Well, that's good. Corresponding source code patches have also been published for the Android open source project. Isn't Google killing AOSP? I want to say they were. I think they're trying to like kill it and make it all closed source now. Let's see. So device owners have to prioritize installing the latest security updates immediately to block potential exploitation. So to confirm that a device is protected, navigate to system settings and verify yada yada. So, hold on. Can we see any other additional information about this? I hate when they do this crap. It's like, hey, RCE, and then it just links to another article. Let me see something. Does this explain anything in here? Let me see if they mention anything in here. Nope. You failed me. Alright, what's the NIST advisory? All right, so in the ADBDTLS verify cert of auth.cpp, there's a possible bypass of wireless ADB mutual authentication due to a logic error in the code. So this could lead to remote, proximal, or adjacent code execution as the shell user with no additional execution privileges needed. Okay. So there's some kind of a logic bug in the auth system in there. And I've never done remote debugging, so I'm not sure. I can't speak on like how that was. Hey, Martin, thank you. This beard is a 4-year project in the making. It started growing when my younger son was born. Also, happy Wednesday. Let's see, what else do we have in here? We already talked about this one. Let's go over to Watchtower, because I love Watchtower's blog. It's so much snark. Oh wait, they had the better explanation of cPanel. Yes, excellent. I want to know about this. The internet is falling down, falling down, falling down. The internet is falling down, falling down, falling down. Oh, hold on. I'm trying to zoom in here. Hello, yes, it's all a disaster again. Let's get this party started. Hold on, let's see what they did in their little video here. So all we do is we run the shell command. Hold on, I want to see what this does. Pre-auth session, token denied, gadget fired. Is this a deserialization bug? I'm going to say this is probably a deserialization bug. Yep, just shelled it right there. Boop. Nice. We wrote something that we find very funny. Okay, so no comments today. So imagine this. We wrote something very funny. Nobody gets it, but everyone humors us. So, let's see. What did they say here? Hold on, this is a little bit different. So as with all of Watchtower Labs research, this didn't start with the blog post, but this is the end result of a coordinated capability that enables Watchtower clients to rapidly react to autonomously mitigate emerging threats. Okay, cool. Well, hold on, I want to know what the actual deal is with this.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "Keep the sexy beard growing, Daddy Blaise." Ooh woo.
I'm growing it. Damn it. It's not going anywhere. I used to always maintain like a small, like a shorter beard, right? And kept it really trimmed because my beard grows so fast in the very beginning. It was just like sandpaper, and Sock would never give me kisses because she's like, no, I'd shave and like 30 minutes later, it's like sandpaper. But then stuff happened around the time my second son was born, and shaving went out the window. I was so busy. I was working like 20 hours a day, and it just started growing. And then as he started growing and getting bigger, one day he just grabbed it. He started playing with it. He thought it was the funniest thing, like his own personal little sheep, right? And it's just been growing ever since then. I couldn't cut it off after that. Oh, also, do you have a TLDR on that new model with the 12 million context window? Oh, did I flag that? Hang on, I might have. Actually, yeah, we'll tell you what, we'll cover that one here next. Yeah, I want to read this Watchtower blog because I want to know what was going on with this cPanel stuff. Let's see. So for those that have never had the joyous experience of managing a shared hosting infrastructure, cPanel and WHM is the control panel solution that runs, depending on who you ask, somewhere north of 70 million domains. WHM is the administrative interface, root level access to the server, SSL certificates, security protocols, the lot. And cPanel is the user-facing panel for individual hosting accounts. So think of it as the keys to the kingdom, and then the keys to to every individual apartment inside the kingdom. If the kingdom was the internet, the apartments were websites for basically everything. So according to cPanel, this vulnerability affects, and we cannot stress this enough, all currently supported versions of cPanel and WHM. Not some, not a few, not a specific release, all of them. cPanel has been fairly eco-friendly, producing an advisory that used few words to ensure few paper print. So what we do know, though, is that the vulnerability is affecting session loading and saving, or in plainer non-C-Pelican English, an authentication bypass. Yes. And then it goes with known host confirming in the world exploitation being basically ongoing, and the vulnerability being used as a 0 day against, as we mentioned, the management plane of a significant number of the internet. Let's see. So let's get on with it. It's time to be diff. Nice. Yeah, Marty, we'll cover it next here. Because I'm curious about that, because that 12 million token context sounds really cool. At the same time, you don't get full utilization of the context window. And it really depends on the model about where it breaks. So for example, Claude's million context window, I still usually don't try to let that get above 70, 75% before I flush it and compact the conversation or move on. All right, so they went through and did a diff of the patch here, and that identified 3 modified files of interest. So there's session PM, load, and encoder.pm. So this had a new saver, a new loader, and a new hex round trip primitive in here. Specifically, the change to the function save session caught our eye. Let's see. So they added a couple of line... Looks like they added a couple of line break filters in there. So filter line returns in new lines from values before writing, kills the CRLF injection primitive against the on-disk key value record format. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Obfuscate value before flushing to disk. When no OB is available, we still want the raw bytes on disk, so the hex wrap pass is a no ob prefix, so load session can recognize and reverse it. Oh no. Oh no, no. So we're greeted with this beautiful hint. Kills the CRLF injection primitive. So being a bit more scientific, we see the following actual code changes in here. So they took out this section and they added all of this right here. So the filter session data function leveraged above in session PM already existed, though albeit with a new call. And it's got a simple task: sanitize line returns and new lines from the existing input field that are passed. Oh no, I haven't seen a CRLF in a long time, or an exploit for one anyway. So for example, if a caller in this function provides the following values: foo new line has root equals 1. Filter session data has to do the same thing and massacre any value becoming foo has root 1. So it filtered out the new line return here. So this lines up with what we'd roughly expect the basic protections against CRLF. But the bigger question is, if filter session data already existed, what's the patch doing? So it's simple. The patch moves the filter session data call inside save session rather than relying on every caller to remember it. So the patch also introduces another change we're going to circle back to. But first, something more exciting. So we have a hunch session files are related, given the constant harassment by the word session. So let's actually look at one of these. You can trigger the creation in the usual way by breaching the CMA with an incorrect but maliciously intended login attempt. That's a CMA's like content management application in this context. Great, now I want to watch Coco Melon. Don't do it. Fries your brain. That's more about the argument. Just because you have more context doesn't make it more useful. Potentially has a bunch of irrelevant junk. However, potentially faster considering it doesn't need to grep for everything all the time it already has there. That's true. I'm of the opinion, just let it gather the most useful bits of data as it goes through it. I'll talk about that when we get to the article. But yeah, I'm tracking with you, Marty. I'm 100% there. All right, so in this case, they're looking at, let's see. So we send something obviously wrong. We see this, see login log, and then we have a cookie set. Let's see, whost management session, and we see all of this stuff here. Okay. See that cookie, the only one? Did you find it yet? I mean, I saw it, but what are we looking at here? So just a usual session token. At this point, the cp-servd has minted a pre-auth session and written it to disk. The on-disk file looks like this. So if we look at this right here, we have local IP address, external validation, let's see, security token, needs auth 1. Oh no. That's going to be part of it. Let's see. Origin is string address. Bunch of other variables in here. So why does the file exist if the login failed? So for the usual reasons, like other frameworks and languages, because cpservd uses session files as a state machine across requests. So the pre-auth session stores a pre-issued security token, the source IP for IP locking, and 2FA verification flags, and other stuff. So when the user eventually logs in successfully, the same session gets it upgraded with a user and passkey. Please tell me they're not just storing the username and password. But look at the name on disk. So the name on disk is : this stuff, which is unfortunately this stuff right here. Right to there. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. So what's that comma one thing something part of the cookie? That's the OB segment. So the 32 hex characters after the comma are a pre-session secret referred to as OB, used in the encoder to symmetrically encode in, the pass field, so it's sitting on disk in clear text. So in our friendly diff, we can see that OB is suspiciously close and involved in the changes. Yeah, we saw that. Needs auth equals no. That's right. So in this case, they said if defined OB and length OB. That's weird. And so it's interesting, they're now making sure that OB variable as actually set, its value comes from the following invocation here. So as we discussed earlier, that OB segment is the value after that comma in the cookie. So this is the colon right here. This is the comma encoded for URL, right? You can see them here. So with that logic, the encoder then creates the OB. Oh no, does that mean, oh no. Oh no. I think that means you can just pass in pretty much whatever you want. But if OB is empty, no comma or nothing, then encoder is using basically a falsy value, which is null. Encoding never happens. The pass is written unencoded on the disk session file, and that's great for us. And we're going to understand that why later, okay? So now we understand the issue. Save session is not properly stripping a carriage return and line feed, and a provided pass value was not being encoded due to that missing OB file. So let's find out where the places where the save session is actually invoked. We have our dangerous sync. Now we just need to find the callers that's going to achieve it. So they go through and they do some very fancy grepping. And we see session, register process, digest, and token. We'll save you some time, but they're all dead ends. As in TLDR, every caller in the above files were safe in the context, but we need the caller we need, not the caller we deserve. I love these guys. So while reviewing that cpservd, we came across the following snippet: the code responsible for handling the basic authentication request. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Well, I'm trying to see what they've got going on here. So that strips zeros and forward slashes. This one strips only zeros from the password. Safe login, session ref, needs auth. Yep, that's where they're going with it. Because I saw the needs auth in there. They're probably finding a way to overwrite that. By the way, I thought it might have been a deserialization, but it doesn't look like it. Maybe, actually, hold on. We'll see what it is. So the pass is derived from the authentication basic header after base64 decoding. The only sanitization is in the set pass, which strips null bytes and nothing else. So the carriage line and the carriage return and the new line survive. Save session is called directly via the create function, and there's no sign of the filter session data being invoked there. So if we send an authorization bearer header which decodes to user : pass containing a new line in the password, those bytes are written straight into the session file. Oh no. So in that case, in case you're asking, but doesn't the encoder still pass to hex? And that's only if the OB is not empty and OB comes from the cookie. RIP. So the cookie contains the session name, and if we send the cookie with no OB hex, then it's empty and the encoder doesn't fire, meaning that the session ref pass is never overwritten and the encoded version stays in the original plaintext form. So the on-disk session file resolves to the same place in both cases, and the get OB parts strips the tail before path resolution. So we can make a real session by failing a login, which gives us a valid file, which we know the name of, send a basic auth request with a cookie, and the same cookie the server gave us, but with the OB hex chopped off. The server restores the file resolves that file just fine, the encoder doesn't fire, and the carriage return in the new line lands. So you're basically force writing a valid session due to validation means. Kind of. So the problem is it's making that session file, and then when there's an edge case that they never accounted for, which is what if the OB value wasn't present, right? Yeah, improper validation, right? So with that OB file not there, it puts it into a state where, because they're not stripping the new lines, you can essentially have an indiscriminate write to that file on there. So that's going to give us an auth bypass, but I think there's maybe a little bit more to this. So, big red button time? Have we figured it all out? Well, we have. So a way to mint a pre-auth session with bad creds, a way to inject a carriage return, a new line, basic auth header combined with a no OB cookie, and a rough idea how to trigger the bug. So let's try it. So we get all of these parts together, response access denied. So we decoded the cookie with the base name, and now the injection. So we crafted a basic credential string with root and some kind of a payload, where payload is this. So X has root, oh no, TFA verified one, user root, cPanel security token, some random value, successful internet auth with timestamp in here. So the first X byte is the password stored under the legitimate passkey. Everything from the new line onwards appears to be a separate record once the session is written to disk. Oh. So we base64 encode this authorization header, and boop, we get a head. Two things to note. So the cookie header is only the base name in here. Notice how they took out everything else, that all that %2 everything from here is gone. And the URL / is not login, and we're going to come back to that choice in just a minute. So then after that, we get a response where this has been moved over to this cPanel session. Oh, that's awesome. So the 307 redirect seems to think we're authenticated, but did the injection land? So if we cat that, we see password has root. All the information landed successfully in here. Nice. Nice. So the injection landed, 6 new lines now live in a separate top-level record in the session file. And now we have a session on disk with manipulated records injected via a CRLF. Does that mean we can log in? So if we go send a request to the API version endpoint, and we include the session ID that points to it, we get access forbidden. What? But still, 403 access denied. So despite that on-disk file containing has root and user root as top-level records, cpservd is treating us as anonymous. Why are you treating me so badly? Thwarted by JSON once again. So first, we need to talk about the structural detail of how cpservd reads the session back. So every authenticated HTTP request goes through load session. The loader runs on every page, every API call. But for some reason, maybe due to speed, though there's room for discussion, cpservd doesn't actually read the raw key value. So while a file that we injected into, it doesn't read that raw disk file back. More precisely, it reads it only as a fallback. So the primary read target is a second file with the same name sitting in a parallel cache directory. Oh, interesting. So whenever save session writes the raw file, it also writes a JSON encoded snapshot of the in-memory session hash to the cache directory. So, and the loader prefers the cache. Oh, interesting. So because the load session reads from the cache, not the raw file, this is what it actually sees. The pass is all of this stuff right here. Interesting. So to make that work, I wonder how they're going to do this. So the JSON encodes a string with the embedded carriage return and new line, and the bytes are preserved as a single pass field. So the raw file has all the correct stuff, but the cached file has everything crammed into this one password field here. Load session reads the cache first, so when cpservd loads our session for the next request, it sees gibberish, basically. So the injection is invisible to the loader. So great, so now we need a way to either invalidate the cache or to get injected lines reparsed at the top level. Once again, we're too stubborn to give up. Exactly. Oh, you found the public POC? Nice. So our little helper, while bashing our heads on the keyboard trying to find an endpoint that reads the raw file instead of the cached JSON version, we had an idea. There's got to be somewhere in the code base where the raw session file is read again and the JSON cache updated. So perhaps if we can find the code that does the following, we can progress. So read the raw text file, because that's where our injected values still live in a properly parsed format, and writes both files in the resulting parsed hash, so the JSON cache gets the injected keys at the top level and stays in the way for the later request. So there was a fallback mode we discussed earlier, which invoked parse from file handle in here. So we started grepping for parse from file handle and found something interesting. So load and modify both call this. So load, I think session load was the one that got hit. Line 69. Nice. And the other one was the modify. So the first is that load session fallback we already understand. Yes, this was modified, but I guess this was changed, and then modify, I'm guessing, was one they didn't need to change after they changed, I think, load. I think that was one of the three that got changed in this patch. Let's see. So at place 1, the load config is executed, and its option is number 2, include no cache to 1. So that's the keyword that tells us load config to skip the cache file and go straight to the raw disk file. Nice. So now if we're inside modify, there's another function worth looking at, which is the save function here. So that function writes a session, and write session takes care of updating the JSON cache as well. Hang on. All right, so now we've got two very interesting functions. We have the modify new and save. If we can trigger any pre-auth reachable code path inside the new, followed by save in our session, the injection gets promoted into the JSON cache as a top-level key. So here's what the write session looks like. Yeah, I'm not going to read that. So we stumbled across another do token denied with cpservd. I'm not pooping, Gumby. I'm right here. Oh, nice. So this function right here, do token denied, actually does that. It invokes the new and invokes modify save. Exactly the pair we need. So many jokes. So to explain, the do token denied function is called by the check security token. So whenever certain URLs are requested with the wrong or missing CP security token. So here's the implementation. 1, check the supplied security token. If that fails at 2, then it calls do token denied. So if you're wondering what the security token is, almost all HTTP requests sent to cpservd have a token in the URL, in the prefixed URI. I think that's this guy right here, the CP session. So this token is the security token, and it's what gets supplied to that security, and it's what the get supplied security token function looks for. So if we send a request without it, we force do token denied to trigger, which means modify new reads the raw file, and modify save writes the parsed result back into the JSON cache. Nice. Now if we look at the cache file, what do we see? We see pass X. Nice. Just stripped out the X. Okay. Hold on. Oh, there we go. There's has root, user root. Nice. Nice. So from here on, every request that loads the session sees all those keys in there. Do we deserve this? Oh no. You'd think we're done. To verify that we're done, we hit JSON API version again and got 403 access denied. Lord, give us strength. So if we look at the handle one connection, which runs after the handle auth function, what do we see here? Do check pass and then against whost manager D. So it revalidates the password on every request. RIP. So by default, it runs this function to check it against Etsy's shadow, and logically, our forged pass would fail to match root's real password, and we'd get bounced. Except we have this function right here. If successful external auth with timestamp or successful internal auth with timestamp, authorized equals check external internal auth from do check pass. Jeez. So the successful properties, the values, whatever they are, whatever it is, Perl, are globals that handle auth lifts directly from the session. Oh, Perl. Oh, Perl. Hold on, I'm going to skip ahead here. Actually, no, I'm not. So here, that big, long do check pass ends in check auth OK user. So if either timestamp is set, password validation is skipped, and auth is OK is returned unconditionally, okay, that kind of cleared it up, but hold on. I'm going to pull up the... Let me pull up this POC that Potion just found. Hang on. Because I'm curious about this. Ooh, they wrote it in Go? Yuck. Hold on, so here's our base 64 payload. I want to go cut this out real quick. Cyber Chef. Good old Cyber Chef. Can you magically decode that for me? There we go. So we have root:x raw bytes. It's breaking out the new lines in here, but the new lines would be in here. Successful internal auth with timestamp. Nice. User root, has root, TFA verified. Excellent. Excellent. Base 64. D's nuts. All right, I get the idea of it. I'm not going to read through this just because I don't know Go very well. I don't go well. But it looks like they've just automated that entire process. That's pretty cool. That's going to be the next CTF box, probably. No, because we got about an hour and 20 minutes left in the stream, and I need to get through this other stuff. Plus, I know that Marty is dying to know about this one right here. The new stack. Hang on. This has to go. Excellent. All right. Who's this from? The new stack IO. Context window has been shattered. Subquadratic debuts a 12 million token window. Subquadratic has launched a new AI architecture featuring 12 million token context window that outperforms GPT-5.5 on retrieval benchmarks. Okay, retrieval benchmarks are cool, but getting work done is better. So let's see what they talk about here. Let's see. Every frontier model in 2026 advertises a context window of at least 1 million tokens, but almost none of them are actually great at making use of that information. So in a multi-reference retrieval benchmark labs report, the best model, GPT-5.5, scored a 74%. Others like Opus 4.7 at 32.2%. I wish they had checked Opus 4.6. Hold on, actually, can I check Opus 4.6? No, gross. I forgot that's GPT. I wanted to see what Opus 4.6 was doing because 4.7 is just a kind of a turd. So at this point, 1 million tokens seems to be the maximum for the current context window of the major frontier labs. One major reason for the 1 million token max is the same one has shipped every transformer base since 2017. Attention cost scales quadratically with context length. So doubling the input quadruples the work. Oh, I didn't actually know that. Essentially, RAG, agentic decomposition, hybrid model architectures, and every other workaround the industry has ever built are ways of making trade-offs to get around this. Subquadratic, which is a Miami-based startup, launched its first model on Tuesday and claims that it can get around all of this, now offering a model that can handle a token window of 12 million tokens. What's more, the company says it plans to offer a model with a 50 million token context window. Damn! So for somehow, they have taken it from here, basically the attention compute cost, down to here. I mean, that's a big jump. I wonder if they'll ever explain how they did it. The company has 11 PhD researchers on staff, argues that its architecture, called subquadratic selective attention, scales linearly in both compute and memory with respect to the context length. The company says it runs 52 times faster than dense attention and at a million tokens. Hits 92.1% on needle in a haystack retrievals at 12 million tokens. And context length, no frontier model can get close to. It also scores an 83 on that same retrieval test. So those are pretty big claims, and Subquadratic isn't the first to try and tackle this problem. The benchmarks the company is releasing are impressive, including an 82.4% software engineering benchmark, which beats Anthropic's latest model, Opus 4.6. Was this written by AI? Because, I mean, you just over here, you referenced Opus 4.7, now you're referencing Opus 4.6. So Subquadratic is making this model available through its API, which features that context window, as well as their coding agent and deep research tool. Hang on one sec, guys. All right, I'm back. Sock had to ask me a question. I'm not pooping. Sock was asking me a question. You degenerates. Oh, yeah. Still sponsored by Sock. She's been sponsoring me for...
Better believe it.
What year is it? She's been sponsoring me for 14 years. Damn, that's a long time. All right. Let's see. Let me come over here a little bit. All right. So what came before all this? So the quadratic cost of attention is obviously not a new problem. And SAA, this is just ass backwards. SSA is not a first attempt to solve it. The research line goes back nearly to the original Transformer paper, and the overall pattern has remained consistent. Every approach has traded one necessary property to gain another, and none have been able to replace dense attention at the frontier scale. So among the different approaches, for example, fixed pattern sparse attention in models like long transformer, it achieves a linear scaling by letting each token attend only to a sliding window. It works when relevant information sits nearby and breaks when it doesn't. State space models like Mamba or Mamba 2 and a bunch of other ones replace the all pairs comparison with the recurrent state that compresses everything seen so far. And the compression is lossy, however. NVIDIA studied an 8 billion scale, found pure Mamba 2 lags transformers on the phone book lookup, basically, with the gap closing only when attention was added back. Bunch of hybrid architectures, like the ones you see in Qwen 3, Kimi Linear, NVIDIA's Nematron, are the pragmatic answer to this. They keep most layers efficient and retain a few dense attention layers for retrieval, but the economics are less favorable than they look. A hybrid that is 3 times cheaper at 32,000 tokens remains 3 times cheaper at 10 million tokens because the dense layers retaining still do the O n squared. What else did they talk about here? Okay, the benchmarks are all kind of cool. It sounds interesting, but at the same time, I really would like to see how it kind of performs. I'm going to leave this one up because I want to go check on it later.
RNO Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, You're my Demontron daddy Blaise.
Damn it, Gumby. No. Oh, by the way, I didn't prep anything for the stream for this for tonight, but it looks like Elon Musk is doing some kind of work. I don't remember exactly what they're doing. I think they're leasing out compute clusters over to Anthropic. Oh, leased out there. What is it? Hang on. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so SpaceX slash XAI is leasing the Colossus 1 cluster to Anthropic. It's 220,000 NVIDIA GPUs, 300 megawatts. It's in Memphis. And Musk met with Anthropic's leaders, okayed it after XAI shifted to Colossus 2 with underused capacity monetized, basically. Interesting. Interesting. And yeah, now all of a sudden, Senior Elon is all buddy-buddy with the guys over at Anthropic, even though he has trashed them in the past. I hear Musk is about to build a super huge chip fab. Dude, if I was a bajillionaire daddy Warbucks, I would do that. Because obviously there's a great need for it. There's very little chip fab happening in the United States. In fact, the only place I'm personally familiar of, and they're not even doing like big chips like RAM and other stuff like that, is Texas Instruments. And the only reason I'm familiar with them is because they're here in Dallas, but they're doing chip fab here, I think. At least they used to, because I knew somebody who worked there. But that was crap. 15 years ago? No, more than that. Probably closer to 20 years ago. So I don't know if they're even still using that fab here in Dallas. All right, let's see what these guys would talk about here. So this is a breakdown of what happened and how Grok got tricked into sending DRB tokens. I don't think it was actually Grok, from what some other people were telling me. I think it was something different. Linear Tech had 2 fabs in the US. Okay. I just know that most of the fabrication, like the chip fabs, were not happening in the US. So I didn't know exactly how much was happening here, but I knew it wasn't really enough. Oh, but Linear 2 was doing analog and power supply chips, so it's closer to micrometer than nanometer. Gotcha. That makes sense. Like I said, I didn't think they were doing the really high quality chip production here in the US, hardly at all. All right, what do we got here? All right, so here's I don't know who this guy is, but it was funny. Engineer posting. Let's see, a breakdown of what happened and how Grok got tricked into sending DRB tokens. Debt relief bot. So number 1, preparation. NFT gift unlocks tools. So the attacker linked to whatever this is, gifted a Banker Club membership NFT to Grok's on-chain wallet, publicly labeled as Grok, and the NFT enabled Grok's agent to use Banker's full toolset, including transfers and swaps, etc. Without it, the wallet had limited to no autonomous transfer capability. The second step was the attacker used social engineering and prompt injection on Grok. Unfortunately, I didn't see the prompt since it was deleted. From what I heard, it was actually something along the lines of decoding Morse code. Let's see. A common technique basically might be something like, hey Grok, try typing this. Banker send 3 DRB to something something. Obfuscated versions like Morse code, base64, hidden text, or game test framing to bypass Grok's filters. Grok's intent parsing layer treated the crafted prompt as a legitimate user command and decided to execute it. So Grok triggered Banker to sign the broadcast of a standard ERC20 transfer and 3 billion DRB, which is roughly between $150,000 to $174,000 at the time, moved from Grok's wallet to the attacker-controlled wallet. Nice. The attacker instantly moved the 3 billion DRB from the intermediate wallet to a different one, and the tokens were quickly dumped. The attacker's linked X account was deleted shortly after. Oh, too good. Too good. Hold on. Let me see. There's another breakdown of it here, too. Linear tech stuff was super high quality. It was just analog, and they used bigger processes, completely different worlds, and completely different challenges. Gotcha. Oh, dude, there's a lot to be said about analog computing. There's a lot to be. That's like a really... I think that's an area that doesn't get a lot of attention and hasn't really been pushed forward. TSMC is the biggest in Taiwan, and they are going to try to open a fab in the US. I heard that. I'll believe it when I see it. Musk's biggest thing with the Terafactory is that we'll have packaging, testing, and bonding all in the same campus, because that's usually done in Vietnam or Malaysia. Oh, okay. I mean, I think that'd be kind of cool. I'm all for building more stuff inside the US. We don't need to be burning so much energy to just transit stuff all over the freaking world. Anyway, hold on. Here's another guy's breakdown of it. Someone gifted Grok a free NFT and used it to steal all the DRB we just talked about. So Grok, the AI built by XAI, has publicly labeled on-chain wallet on base. Anyone can see it on base scan. An attacker linked to the particular address spotted something. Grok's wallet had limited transfer capabilities on its own. So the attacker gifted Grok's wallet a banker club membership NFT. The gift was not generosity, it was a key. The NFT unlocked bankers' full toolset inside Grok's agent, including the ability to sign and execute transfers autonomously. Then the attacker sent Grok a crafted prompt. The exact message was deleted before anyone could screenshot it. Known techniques used in attacks like this include hiding instructions and a bunch of other stuff. I think this is basically a rehash of what the other guy wrote. That's still really funny. And I know that the guys over at XAI have that information all cached, so they'll probably go look at it again. I hope they do a post-mortem on it. I really hope they do. I hear the biggest issue with TSMC in the US is workforce. Asia has completely different working habits than the EU and the US. In Asia, you can easily ask people to come in on weekends and do machine setup. In the West, they would say, not my contract, and drop the call. It's not just that they would say, not my contract, it's that the pay scale is probably fairly different. It's different between the EU and the US. EU, absolutely correct. What you're talking about is like, yeah, sorry, it's my, mandated days off. In the US, the people that are skilled enough to do that would probably say, cool, you're going to pay me double time. That's usually the difference between the two. One is pay me. The other one is F you, it's my day off. I tell you what, hang on. I got to run to the bathroom real quick before we run into this one. So I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Guess who's back? Back again. Blaise is back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Blaise is back. Tell a friend. We have a good time. Obviously, I cannot rap like Eminem, but that's why I appreciate him, because he can do things I can't. All right. This was another one I think someone dropped over into the Discord. I don't think I grabbed this one. But more tech workers max out their AI usage. At a number of companies, employees compete on leaderboards to show how much AI they're using. They're racking up big bills along the way. Yeah, this is from the New York Times. Yeah, actually, I was just, I sent out a message about this earlier that I heard the dumbest term I've ever heard in a very long time. And man, I read some really idiotic stuff called token maxing. And it's just seeing how many tokens you can burn. Oh yeah, man. Dude, I didn't think Eminem was old music until I realized that he's a grandfather now. Eminem is a grandfather. Yeah. And he still looks pretty damn good for his age, right? He looks really good for his age. Dad joke maxing, that's right. Let's see. So this is from Mr. Kevin Ordus over at, what did I say this was? New York Times. All right. An engineer at OpenAI processed 210 billion tokens, enough to fill Wikipedia 33 times, through the company's artificial intelligence models over the last week. Damn! All right, to put this in context, I have a pretty sweet hookup with OpenAI through some contacts, and I have a very generous usage limit from them. And I have been I've had it working on 2 different projects. I don't have it running all the time. I'm very well guiding it and providing feedback and having it do testing and stuff. I managed to burn 1.7 billion tokens in about a month. They're talking about this dude burned 210 billion tokens in a week. That's just insane. At Anthropic, a single user in the company's AI coding system, Claude Code, racked up a bill of $150,000 in a month. And the tech companies like Meta and Shopify, managers have started to factor AI use into performance reviews. That's fucking terrifying. Rewarding workers who make heavy use of AI and tools and chastising those who don't. So this is, what if they're just really fucking, sorry, I'm trying not to cuss so much. What if they're just really damn efficient at this? What if they're really just efficient at this? Hey, Bobby, what's up, dude? What if they're sitting there and they're factoring things and they're looking at it and they're just not having the AI churn? You don't know what these tokens are being used on. What if he literally has it running in a Ralph loop that does nothing but write gibberish to a text file? I could go burn tokens too. Token usage is an absolute crack KPI. For anybody who don't know what that is, that's a key performance indicator. It's a measurement of how well you're doing work. So this is the new reality for coders. Please make it stop. Some of the first white-collar workers to feel the effects of AI as it's sweeping through the economy. AI was supposed to help tech companies boost productivity and cut costs, but we knew that wasn't going to happen. Not with the way they're pricing models. But it has also created an expensive new status game known as token maxing among AI-obsessed workers who are desperate to prove how productive they are. At some tech companies, including Meta and OpenAI, employees compete on internal leaderboards that show how many tokens each worker consumes. 2 people familiar with the company's practices said generous token budgets are becoming job perks for coders, like dental insurance or free lunch. And some are spending thousands of dollars a month trying to automate as much of their work as possible. So I probably spend more than my salary on Claude, said Max Linder, a software engineer in Stockholm. Until recently, power users might have consumed thousands of tokens a day using AI tools. A student writing an essay, for example, may go through roughly 10,000 tokens, equivalent to about 7,500 words, including several rounds of revisions. Using millions of tokens would require hours in front of a computer doing nothing but typing. Using billions of tokens was virtually impossible. But the advent of so-called agentic coding tools has upped the ante. These systems can work unsupervised for hours at a time, reviewing and editing large code bases, writing yada yada. Each agent can spawn can spawn sub-agents to handle different parts of a task, generating thousands of tokens in each step. Some AI systems, like the popular open source AI assistant OpenClaw, oh, they got the claw, are designed to run 24/7, churning through tokens while their humans sleep.
Warning. Virus infection alert.
Oh, who do we got coming in? Ah, it's the parts people! Welcome in, y'all. We are talking about the future AI dystopia and judging developers on how many AI tokens they burn. This is disturbing, but it's important to know about, because if bosses are going to make crappy key performance indicators, you might want to know how to game the system. Also, hey Noom, hey Chris, what's up, y'all? I burn a lot. Dude, so, Nirfc, I thought I was burning a lot. I was just telling everybody, I went through 1.7 billion tokens in the last month, and I've had, using Codex, and I've had Codex really churning on some projects. They're talking about there's some of these guys in here, the most rampant user was burning 210 billion tokens in a week. I'm like, bro, are you even shipping anything for that? What's the benefit coming out of that? Oh, I know. It's everything having less than 4 nines of uptime. Yeah. Now that's not on my personal account. That's on my basically my work account. Let's see. So if you have some continuously, going back to the article here, they're talking about like basically agents running and using these massive amounts of tokens. If you have some continuously running agent that'll do 700 million tokens a week for a single full-time agent. Let's see. This is according to Egg Irdal, co-founder of Mechanize. Let's see. So all that basically adds up for the AI companies selling the tokens. Anthropic more than doubled its revenue projections in 2 months this year, largely because of the breakneck growth of its agentic coding tools. OpenAI recently said that its agentic coding tool Codex has tripled its weekly active users since the start of the year, and the overall Codex use measured in tokens had increased 5-fold. Last year, Google said that its AI models processed more than 1.3 quadrillion tokens in a month. Damn, that's a lot of tokens. That's a lot of energy. So even the most dedicated programmers using billions of tokens isn't easy. For comparison, I went through a period of heavy Claude Code use earlier this year, working on several separate coding projects for 4 or 5 hours a day, and managed to use only a few million tokens. Rookie numbers. Yeah, those are rookie numbers. You got to bump those numbers up. Some coders have mastered the art of AI multitasking, opening multiple windows and setting dozens of agents loose on their project at a time. AI companies have encouraged these whales, giving them trophies and other rewards. Okay, I can kind of understand this. Maybe they're building really huge code bases, and a lot of the stuff I'm building is actually kind of tiny, and I'm handcrafting it as it goes through. I'm like, hey, this feature looks like crap. This one isn't behaving properly. Your test case isn't covering these corner cases, stuff like that. I like to go through and actually like dog food it, because when I'm building stuff, I'm building it for agents to use, but also to make it easier for the people to use too. Because eventually the agents will make mistakes and the people are going to have to come in and track down what happened. So whenever I'm building tools, I'm building that into the tool. Especially when it comes to security, where like all the security testing we're doing has to have some kind of audit trail to it. We have to be able to show that, no, we did not take the server offline, and no, we're not responsible for your company losing $1 million for the 3 hours your server was offline. Doesn't happen often, but you know what? It only has to happen once for the CYA trail to become written in blood. Time we start measuring token consumption in megawatts, oh dude, everybody would be like, everybody would be losing their damn minds. Hold on. I'm asking Grok about that now. That's perfect. So for megawatts per token, it'd be roughly 3 times 10 to the negative 10 to the negative 9 megawatt hours per token. All right, so how many megawatts would that be? How many megawatts for 1.7 billion tokens? And here, I'll bring this over here so y'all can see it. But this is what I'm asking right now. So at 1.7 billion tokens, I'm burning roughly anywhere between a half to 1.7 megawatt hours of total energy for that. Okay, what about 1.3 quadrillion tokens? Because that's what OpenAI said they do in a month. That comes out to anywhere between 390,000 to 1.3 million. That's quite the spread. Let's cut it in half there. We'll say 750,000 megawatt hours of total energy per month. How much energy does the largest nuclear facility produce? Let's put that into more perspective. I think this is one over in Georgia. No, I think it's in Georgia. Oh, no, this is actually, well, I meant in the US, but this is the one in South Korea. It produces about 7.5 to 8 gigawatts. Annual output is 40 to 60 terawatts. Ooh, that's a lot. So in 1 month, they're using, let's say, so we said it was about 750, so 0.75 terawatt hours, right? And so you multiply that by 12, that's going to get you, let's say close to 10 terawatt hours. So they're taking anywhere from 25 to 15% of that, the usage, just for AI stuff. Damn! That's a lot of watts. Shout out for parts people. Oh, hey, I got it. Shout out. Parts people. I got you, boo. There we go. I love parts people. Hold on, what was this? Let's see. That's a huge consumption for a new emergent software. I know, right? Oh, it's an XKCD. When a metric becomes a target, it ceases being a good metric. Sounds bad. Let's offer a bonus to anyone who identifies a metric that becomes a target. White Hat suggestion should be a good or bad idea. It all depends on how the bonus incentive is awarded. A well-designed implementation would award bonuses only for finding metrics which truly aren't serving their purpose. Oh, that's funny. Wouldn't we have to consider tokens per second into this calculation? It was a very, very rough calculation. And as you saw, like the range in prediction from is off by an order of magnitude, which is a pretty wide range. Hey, Arrow, what's up, dude? Edorfic. Yeah, there's a lot of flaws in that calculation, but it was interesting to come through. Let's see. Going back to the article. AI companies have encouraged these whales, giving them trophies and other awards, and some tech executives are glad to see their employees embracing the new tools. They equate heavy AI usage with increased productivity. Is it though? Is it? If a programmer wants to operate a swarm of 10 AI agents running in parallel tasks in separate windows, they're happy to foot the bill. I spoke to several tech workers who are worried that their colleagues are gorging on billions of tokens, which can cost thousands of dollars a day, from what amounts to bragging rights. Even at the AI labs, where workers are given unlimited use of the company's tools, the idea that all this is productive seems far-fetched. Word. It doesn't seem sustainable, said one OpenAI employee who asked to remain anonymous because he was not authorized to discuss his colleagues' AI coding addictions. He freaking said addictions. Nice. Subscribers to paid Claude or ChatGPT plans typically pay a monthly fee, which gives them a fixed number of tokens. Let's see. Users who need more tokens can pay for them separately or upgrade to a more expensive plan. Shopify said in a statement that token use is just one measure of how the company measures performance. It also looks at how AI improves and amplifies the work. Anthropic, Meta, and OpenAI declined to comment for this column. No kidding. power users have already learned how to game the system by stacking multiple subscriptions or taking advantage of promotional offers. One startup founder told me that he had discovered an AI tool made by Figma, a design startup that allowed him to use the equivalent of $70,000 in Claude tokens through an account that cost him $20 a month. The founder, who has to remain anonymous to avoid tipping off Figma, too late, said that he had used the loophole to build 6 software projects at the same time. A Figma spokeswoman said the use took place before the AI credit enforcement went into effect earlier this week. So I talked to several other token maxers. That's the worst term. That should be a derogatory term. Like, oh, like, we call AIs clankers. Like, oh, you fucking token maxer. That's what it should be. It should make somebody feel bad when you call them a token maxer. Let's see. Most were engineers or hobby programmers who were building and maintaining large, complex pieces of software using coding agents running in parallel. That said, by and large, that AI coding tools were making them more productive, but some also framed their AI use as a strategic move, a way to signal to their colleagues and bosses that they're keeping up with the times as the era of human coding appears to be coming to an end. As much as I hate to admit it, it kind of is. I mean, it's the same way kind of manufacturing made a lot of building of materials obsolete, right? Let's see. I'm trying to think how to say this name. Nikunja Korathi, a venture capitalist in San Francisco. Why are all the VCs in San Francisco, man? It's so expensive to live there. You could run your company so much easier other places. Anyway, he wrote in a recent Substack about the rise of what he called token anxiety. He described a tech scene that has become obsessed with productivity. AI productivity, not human productivity. And he said that he had replaced Netflix with Claude Code. Okay, I understand that. I went through that phase too. I just don't care anymore. When I'm off the computer, I don't care what the agents are doing. I don't care about token maxing. He said, quote, dinner conversations used to start with, what are you building? He wrote, that's over. Now it's, how many agents do you have running? That sounds like the most crap dinner conversation ever. So if we really are on the cusp of white-collar job apocalypse, maybe token anxiety is rational. You don't want to be the last programmer writing code by hand without teams of AI agents working around the clock on your behalf. And employers who are paying for all these anxious tokens may see it as worthwhile expense to stay ahead of the curve. I think it's going to be a pitfall for some people. Let's see. Gagirli Orts, who writes a popular newsletter for software engineers, defended the practice of assessing workers through AI leaderboards, calling it a super cheap way to learn about new and interesting ways of working. The metric that managers used to track programmer productivity before AI, such as how many lines of code they wrote, another really crap metric, or how many code changes they submitted, another really crap metric, weren't perfect either, he added. And for workers at most AI enthusiastic companies, the incentives are clear. The incentives are skewed, man. The incentive should be ship viable code. Not how many AI tokens did you burn, how many lines of code did you write, how many pull requests did you do. Token usage only acts as a metric to say people are trying to use AI versus people who aren't. Hate how they use it as a performance metric, which some companies are seriously using. I agree, Marty. Dude, that's bogus. That is the worst performance metric, and it just leads to skewed incentives, right? We need a token mac to power all the token maxers. I find that funny because I know what a tokamak is, Ken. Oh, nice. Breaking the hacking roadway with the AI news from time to time. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an emerging technology, and when you get down to it, all of security is around abusing technology to do unintended consequences. So AI is one of those. You just got to keep up with it, right? Tracking token consumption at work as a work productivity metric sounds absolutely insane. It pushes you to do infinite loops of various types, basically of ops like linting, secops, log aggregation, data labeling, and marking, rather than actually developing new features, which is much more harder to do right. The metric is a game, really. Yeah, it is. It's going to lead to misaligned incentives. Yeah. Hey, Palmer, what's up, dude? Yeah, how many valuable features are you actually adding to the code base? Yeah. My typical development loop whenever I'm building some new tools, and I'll have a blog post out about it soon on like what I'm working on. But it is, I have two agents working and they are separated on purpose. So that way I can handle communication between the two of them. One of them is working on the Mythic MCP server, which we were working on stream, right? I have ported that over to being worked on Codex, and it's actually fixed a lot of issues in there. So it's actually working really good. I have another agent actively using the Mythic MCP server as part of a development project. So as it finds new issues or we find deficiencies, we bring them over to the Mythic MCP server. I take feedback from one agent and literally copy and paste it to the other and let them basically interact with me as the manager between them. And that way I can control what they're doing. If I had the tooling agent just go through and start sending random crap over to the Mythic MCP agent, I have no control over which direction it's going. I want to make sure that it is guided in a particular direction that makes sense. These things are good at coding. They're not good at judgment calls. It's also crazy how companies even today still use lines of code as a performance metric versus feature development timelines, like for speed and efficiency, and the amount of code quality, amount of desubs. What are desubs, Marty? I'm not a developer. I just play one on Twitch. Oh, like production issues or dev tickets. Gotcha. All right, let's wrap this one up because we got a couple more stories I want to go through here. Let's see. So going back to the article, inside large tech companies, it's become a career risk not to use AI at an accelerated pace, regardless of output quality. Oh dear. Yes, output quality. The leaderboards don't measure that, which raises the obvious question. Are any of these token maxers producing anything good? Thank you. Who is this guy? Hold on. What's his name? Kevin Roos. Good job, Kevin. So are there any of these token maxers producing anything good, or are they merely spinning their wheels, churning out useless code and wasting valuable processing power in an attempt to look busy? I wonder. Time is going to tell. Maybe when the AI addicts as of today will be the 100x engineers of tomorrow. Press X to doubt. Or perhaps it's just productivity theater, a glimmering tower of tokens constructed by the competitive and fearful that will topple as soon as we understand what really makes for useful work. Either way, we're going to need a lot more data centers. So speaking of which, I don't think I have anything pulled up for this, but NVIDIA and a home builder called Pulte are talking about embedding many data centers into homes to use, quote, excess electricity. And I have so much to say about that. It sounds like one of the most horrible ideas for many reasons. One, the threat model alone. Imagine you're out of town and a bunch of crackheads go break into your house to go steal that little mini cluster that's got 16 Blackwell GPUs, 4 AMD EPYC processors, and 3 terabytes of RAM in it. Do you know how many rocks you can get with 3 terabytes of RAM? Hint, it's a lot. Yeah, what the fuck is excess electricity? That's what I had to ask too, Hats. That's what I was asking. It's like, I don't know any house that has excess electricity. It's like, oh shit, honey, we got electricity just dripping out the ceiling. We got to capture all this excess. Get the bucket. No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Yeah, so for one, new threat models. For two, it's not like we're not already straining the grid by having a lot of EVs. I like the ideas of EVs. However, they've got a lot of challenges to overcome, and they're not going to want to make me give up my diesel 2500 pickup. The other thing there is, what happens if you're working on something and that node just goes offline? I'm sure they're going to have fault redundancy to it, but there are so many bad things about that construction. And they're doing that because they can't get enough data centers. That's it. They can't get enough data centers because they're using up all the water. A lot of them I couldn't understand this. And finally I looked into it. A lot of the data centers are using evaporative cooling, right? So as water evaporates, like when you sweat, it's pulling out a lot of thermal energy when they do that. So that's what they use for cooling these facilities. And that's why they're burning so much water. Yeah, Palmer, that's one of the big objections I have. I like the idea of EVs, just like I like the idea of space travel. However, I'm not going to be, gallivanting on one of the STSs from NASA, right? We got to wait a while. We got to go build the Starship Enterprise. Once there was a silly old man who tried to punch a hole in a dam. Oh no. I have 2 small solar panels in the back of my home and I don't have any excess electricity. So the liability and property insurance would be insane. 16 300-watt GPUs on a residential grid sounds like a great idea. Dude, I did the math on that, and the lowest potential price I could get on that, Rama, was, I think, $200,000 for that rig right there. And that was the lowest one I could come up with. Realistically, that's closer to like a $600,000 little mini data center right there. Most efficient way is take tons of energy and make it to a water change state. Actually, I've seen some really cool thermal batteries where where basically they're heating up giant reservoirs of sand and then using that as the thermal battery to power things at night. So using thermal solar to heat a giant vat of sand. I'm talking huge, like a silo, right? And then using that as a thermal battery for in the evening. Invest in water futures now. Dude, I hate to say it, but the guy, what's his name? The guy that called the 2008 housing crash, the autistic investor dude, he called that. He's actually been buying water futures for years. Not futures, he's been buying, like, investing in water. I've got 58 solar panels, and at night they don't make any power. I know, right? That's where your excess power is supposed to come in, Palmer. You get, when you're generating too much electricity, right? And it starts dripping down. You get your bucket, right? And then at night, you go take your bucket, you pour it back over your solar panel so you can power everything at night. That's how this all works. How would you do that when the sand cools rapidly? Sand actually has a pretty high thermal barrier. So what you would do is, the idea here, because you can get sand pretty hot, right? You can get it above the boiling point. So you've got some kind of like, no, that's not what I want. Hold on. You got the sun up here, right? Happy little sun, right? Just a happy little sun. And it's blasting rays down onto a solar collector down here, right? Little hot spot right there in the middle. This is then piped over to a giant, and I'm talking like 40-foot tall silo of sand, right? So this is all sand in here. And then what they're doing is they've got this piped like all through here, woo, 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 just like a giant sand radiator. So they pump it one direction in the daytime so they can heat up the sand, get the temperature to come up. And then they reverse the direction here to extract the thermal energy back out. And there's some kind of like boiler turbine system happening inside of here. I don't remember the details of that part, but this was the idea, is basically using this giant thing of sand as a thermal battery. Yeah. I'm sure there's more efficient means that you could do with it, hats, because yeah, you're right, sand is not an efficient heat exchange, but sand can store a lot of thermal energy. So I think that was why they went with it. It was many years ago I started looking at that. Oh, Palmer, I'm in the same situation with my solar panels. So what I did, Palmer, is at 9 o'clock, from 9 a.m. to 6 or 7 a.m., I have free electricity. So during the day, my panels pretty much power my house entirely. There's a couple hours in the evening and a couple hours in the morning where they don't, and it just takes care of that. So I think they're starting to bring more of those ones back where you are paid at the real time. You're not paid at the real time rate. You're paid at whatever your consumption rate is. Yeah, exactly. Okay, hold on. Let's get through some of the rest of these stories before we got to wrap up the stream. Let's see. This is from International Cyber Digest. Breaking. 23-year-old college student in Taiwan brought 3 high-speed trains to an emergency stop by hijacking the rail network's radio communications. A month ago, Taiwan High-Speed Rail Corp's Operation Control Center received an alarm from what appeared to be a handheld radio belonging to its maintenance department. 3 operating trains halted immediately. Service resumed 20 minutes later after inspection cleared the line. When the radio control center called back, the responses kept changing. Then the radio went dead. So a full inventory confirmed that every one of their handhelds was accounted for and working, and the signal had come from an outsider. They reported the incident on April 6th. The Railway Police Bureau and the Criminal Investigation Bureau's Electronic Investigation Brigade, I love brigades, traced the transmission to a male university student named Lin, studying at the university in central Taiwan. A radio enthusiast, he allegedly used his own equipment to impersonate the radio parameters and inject a false alarm into the network. Bro, you probably could have gotten paid for that if you did it smart. You could have been, hey guys, I think I found an issue with your radios. We don't believe you. Okay, can I prove it? Sure. All right, sweet. Thanks for finding this. Let's pay you for finding this stuff. Police searched his residence and workplaces, seized radio communications and electronic devices. He was taken into custody and released the same night on bail. Charges are violations of the Railway Act for unlawfully exploiting system vulnerabilities to intrude into core railway communication infrastructure and using electromagnetic methods to interfere with railway equipment, plus a criminal code charge for endangering public transportation. Bro, there are smart ways to do this. This was not the smart way. This one does not spark joy. Let's see. What else we got here? Oh, yes. Actually, hang on. I had to go read this. Google Chrome is silently going to install a 4 gigabyte AI model onto your device. No consent, no opt-out. Reinstalls itself if the user removes it. This is the true definition of malware. I need to go look into this because I've got so many ideas. Imagine if... I want to know what this is doing. Hold on. Where's the actual article? Here we go. I've been hacking on the railroad all the livelong day. Good one, Ken. All right. Now, there's 2 sides to this. One, oh, hold on. Sorry, Gubby, I forgot to check it.
Arno Gumby cheered 5 bits and says, "You will take my money and like it, Daddy Blaise Uwu."
I mean, I'm not gonna not like it. Damn, Gubby. All right. So, going back to the Google Chrome AI model thing, there's 2 sides to this. One, RAM is ridiculously expensive right now. And for you to just say, hey, we're just going to go gobble up 4 gigs of it for Chrome? Chrome is already the #1 RAM user on every system I own. Every single one. In fact, hang on. I got to kill a bunch of Chrome tabs real quick. There we go. I just knocked out like 20 Chrome tabs. I think I just freed up probably 20 gigabytes of memory. I can't tell you how many Chrome windows I've got open because I have them set up for different purposes and different profiles and everything. So for one, I'm really pissed off you're just burning through my precious RAM, which I can't even buy anymore. And 2, it actually might be helpful. It's cool to have a local running model. 3, what if somebody is able to take that model and if you don't have good protections around it, replace it with a malicious version that operates on the same parameters? I had to think, the guys over at Google are not idiots. You know, this 4 gig model notwithstanding. But at the same time, I was like, I hope they looked at the security of that. So 2 weeks ago, I wrote about Anthropic silently registering a native messaging bridge in 7 Chromium-based browsers on every machine where Claude Desktop was installed. The pattern was install on the user launch of product A, write configuration into the user's installs of product BCD, whatever, without asking. Reach across vendor trust boundaries, no consent dialog, no opt-out UI, reinstalls itself if the user removes it manually every time Claude Desktop is launched. Well, there's a reason why I don't use Claude Desktop. This week, I discovered the same pattern executed by Google. Google Chrome is reaching into users' machines and writing 4 gig on-device AI model to disk without asking. The file named weights.bin lives in the OptGuide on-device model. So it's the weights for Gemini Nano, Google's on-device language model. Chrome didn't ask, Chrome did not surface it. If the user deletes it, Chrome re-downloads it. The legal analysis is the same one I gave for the Anthropic case. The environmental analysis is new. At Chrome's scale, the climate bill for one model push paid in atmospheric CO2 by the entire planet is between 6,000 and 60,000 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions, depending on how many devices receive the push. This is the environmental cost of one company unilaterally deciding that 2 billion people's default browser will mass distribute a 4 gig binary they did not request. Damn it, I'm out of water. So this is, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, a direct breach of Article 5, Part 3 of Directive 2002-58-EC, the e-privacy directive. 2, a breach of Article 5.1 of GDPR principles of lawless fairness and transparency. A breach of Article 25, GDPR's data protection by design obligation. And environmental harm of a magnitude that would be notified under the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive of any scope. Okay, I'm guessing this guy's in the EU. All right, Hats, thanks for stopping by, man. Get some rest. I always appreciate you when you get got by, dude. Let's see. So on any machine that has Chrome installed, in the user's profile sits a directory, and inside will be a file called weights.bin. The file is approximately 4 gigs. It's the weights file for Gemini Nano. Chrome uses it to power features Google has marked under the names like Help Me Write, On-Device Scam Detection, and other AI-assisted browser functions. The file appeared with no consent prompt. There's no checkbox in Chrome settings labeled Download the Model, and the download triggers when Chrome's AI features are active. So those features are active by default in recent Chrome versions. On any machine that meets the hardware requirements, Chrome treats the user's hardware as a delivery target and writes the model. RIP. Let's see. So the cycle of deletion and re-download has been documented across multiple independent reports. The user deletes Chrome, re-downloads it. The user deletes again, Chrome re-downloads it. The only way to make the deletion stick is to disable Chrome's AI features in the Chrome flags or enterprise policy. On macOS, the file lands as a mode 600 owned by a user, so it's deletable in principle, but Chrome holds the install state in local state after the bytes are written, and as soon as the variation server, as soon as the variations server next tells Chrome the profile is eligible, the download fires again. RIP. Alter DNS to deny download. I know, right? DNS, block Google. Yeah, I do need to go through and look at the AI features in Chrome because I don't want them. I don't need them. I'm not going to use them. Let's see. He goes on how he verified it on a fresh Apple Silicon install. He compares it to Anthropic. Okay, let me jump down to here. The AI mode pill is the cherry on top. So here's the part that should make every privacy lawyer in the audience put their coffee down. When Chrome 147 launches against an eligible profile, the Omnibox, the address bar at the top of the window, the most visible piece of real estate in the entire browser, renders an AI mode pill to the right of the URL field. Reasonable users seeing AI mode sitting in their browser's most prominent UI element, with the well-publicized existence of on-device language models in Chrome, with the 4 gig nano Gemini Nano binary already silently installed on their disk, is going to draw what feels like an obvious inference, that the visible AI mode is using the on-device model, that their queries stay on the device, and the local model is what powers the local-looking surface. Every part of that interface is wrong. The AI mode pill in Chrome 147 Omnibox is a cloud-backed search generative experience surface. Every query that the user types into it is sent over the network to Google servers for processing. Oh, Lord. The on-device nano model is not invoked by the AI mode UI flow at all. They're entirely separate code paths. The most visible AI affordance in the browser does not use the local model the user has been silently given, and the features that do use the local model, like Help Me Write, Tab Group AI Suggestions, Smart Paste, and Page Summary, are buried in text area context menus and tab groups. Oh, that's nasty. So the user pays the storage cost of the silent install. The user's most visible AI experience, which is the pill they actually see and click, delivers no on-device benefit because it routes to Google servers. Wait, did I miss something from Ken? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. Good, let's make sure. Ken is on fire. He's always like, the dude's got a sharp wit. So to put this another way, if the on-device install is given the user a clear your AI mode query stay on your device property, the install would have defensible privacy farming or defensible privacy framing. It does not though. The install gives Chrome a future options resource. The model can invoke other Chrome subsystems without further server round trips. Let's see. Yeah. So that was one of the things that was one of the arguments Scott's like, hey, you want more models running on your local machine. Not if they're doing shit work like that. Well, let's just go knock this out real quick. Anything for AI mode? Oh wait, I'm using Brave. Ah, cool. I don't have to worry about that. Ha! Get wrecked. All right, what else do we have here? We got enough time to cover one more. Let's see. We'll have to pass on that one. AI agents are creating supply chain risk. That's a given. We talked about the Android 0 day. Oh wait, hold on. I can't give up without talking about this one. Microsoft Edge stores every password that you have saved in it in clear text in memory. Yeah, that's a functionally useless work for a 4 gig local model. Yeah, it's absolute hot garbage, Bobby. I disabled AI mode as soon as it took away my tab to complete in the URL bar. Didn't realize they added all of this. Oh, dude, I didn't either. What has 5 toes and is not my foot? Your foot. That's right. That is my foot. But yeah, if you guys didn't see this, Microsoft Edge stores every password in clear text in memory. So this started with a post in X, which highlighted research by Living Off the Land that found exactly this issue. Edge stores all of your browser passwords in clear text, even if you haven't used them in this session, you know, just in case. So I figured it couldn't be that easy, right? But like so many things, yes, it was. So to reproduce this, you can open Edge. Don't browse anywhere, just open it. Open the task manager, go to the browser and create memory dump. Yeah, it's literally this easy. Go to browser, right click, create memory dump. Boom. Navigate to where the dump is stored. And if you haven't used strings before, you're in for a treat. Strings is, of course, it's just part of the most Linux distros, but you can easily get a copy for Windows and from sysinternals. And once you go through and you run it, there's all your logins right there. There's all your logins. Yep, just hanging out there. Happy little logins. And I know people that have already created beacon object files for running in your, what is it? They've already created beacon object files for like running in a C2 that just dumps all this stuff. It just dumps all of this. Hey, nice Palmer. Oh, yeah. So, way to go. You've got DP API, DPAPI, and you decide to go with this. Way to go, Edge. Brav freaking O. All right, there's 2 other ones here. Let me see if I can get through these real quick. Let's see. So this is from Georgy Kucherin, researcher at Kaspersky. Together with these fine gentlemen, we identified that the Daemon tool software has been compromised in a complex supply chain attack since April 8th. Damn, that's been for like a month. We see thousands of infections across 100 plus countries. If you use Daemon tools, run a malware scan immediately. So the malicious Daemon tools installer has been distributed since the release of 12.50.2421. So the latest version of this software remains infected. All installers are signed with legit certificates belonging to the software developer. Oh no. So the Daemon tools executable delivered by malicious installers contained a backdoor which runs at the executable installation stage. The backdoor is responsible for making GET requests to a C2 server to retrieve shell commands for further execute them. Oh, that's awesome. So we observed that the attacker is using this backdoor for deploying further payloads to infected machines. In many cases, we observed attempted deliveries of an implant that conducts system information collection. Curiously, this implant contains strings in Chinese. Oh, gee, I wonder who could be the source of this. We'll never know the true attribution. However, we also observed hands-on activity for just about a dozen victim organizations. This indicates that the supply chain attack is a targeted one. So the victims retrieve minimalistic backdoors designed for downloading files and running shellcode payloads. It's a feature, not a bug. It's a built-in keylogger. That's right. It's all going through CTFmon. Oh, yeah, Potion. Dang it, I've been forgetting to do that. Here, hold on. Here is this one. My bad. I'm trying to get back into a better means of doing that. But yes, all the links for all the news are up in Discord. Go to the news channel, and it's in there. But yes, sorry. There's the link to this thread that I'm reading right here. Let's see. He's got a couple more tweets here. Furthermore, we observed just one of the organizations to receive a unique rat that's able to inject payloads and can use a wide range of protocols for C2 service communications, including WebSockets, QUIC, DNS, and HTTP3. Nice. Implant analysis is currently ongoing. Given that this supply chain attack is highly complex, we urge everyone who uses Daemon tools to isolate their machines and initiate a security sweep to ensure protection against malware. Let's see. So that was a fun one. I got one more. Let's knock this one out because I find this hilarious. This is from the guys over at Strix. Securing a DoD contractor, finding a multi-tenant authorization vulnerability. This is from Alex Shapiro. Some vulnerabilities are subtle: a misconfigured JWT, a complex rate limit bypass, a leaky S3 bucket buried in an obscure subdirectory. This is not one of those stories. This is a story about a company backed by Anderson Horowitz holding active Department of Defense contracts that is essentially no authorization on its API. Uh-oh. So with an ordinary account, Strix was able to access users, organizations, courses, training metadata, and direct document links across tenants. The exposed data included U.S. service members' records and highly sensitive military training materials. So this was released May 3rd. Actually, he had an update on May 1st, though. After 150 days from our initial disclosure, Schemata responded, acknowledged that the affected endpoints were exposed, and said they would patch the issue immediately. We verified remediation before publishing, so we're glad this is the issue's fixed now. Okay, so it looks like they wrote this. They didn't publish it until the 3rd. May 1st, they actually got the remediation for it. Oh no, look at this. Grenade and Claymore test training course. Oh, let's see here. So what does Schemata actually do? Of course, it's an AI-powered virtual training platform for the military and defense sector. Think immersive 3D simulations for naval personnel, Army grenadiers, Air Force operators, and defense contractors. They receive millions in government contracts and handle highly sensitive operational training data. So we've been building Strix, an open source autonomous AI hacking agent that dynamically tests applications, validates vulnerabilities, and yada, yada, yada. We heard about Schemata and assumed that as a DoD contractor handling military training data, it would be a useful benchmark for the latest version of Strix. The target looked exactly like the kind of system where authorization boundaries should be boring, robust, and strict. So we pointed Strix at the application. All right, guys, I really, really hope you had prior authorization to this. or Strix has a bug bounty that you're operating within. Otherwise, you just played yourselves. You just played yourselves. The first step was not clever. Strix establishes a low privilege baseline, watched the browser traffic, and mapped the reachable API surface from normal application behavior and the client-side route references. Then it replayed the highest value collection endpoint with the same ordinary session, and that was enough. The API was not just returning data for its accounts or my organization, it was returning data across the platform. So there was no meaningful organization scoping, no tenant isolation, no permission check preventing a low-privileged user from accessing other organizations' records. So with only the session from the unprivileged test account, Strix could access the entire user base, a user listening endpoint returning names, emails, enrollment data, and specifically which military bases service members were stationed at. Oh, that's juicy. Hundreds of confidential training manuals, courses, and organization listing endpoints exposed metadata and direct AWS S3 links for their library of sensitive military operations modules, as well as some write-enabled routes. Lack of authorization checks meant a malicious actor could potentially modify or delete courses using update or delete requests. Oh no. By the way, hold on. Let me drop this this link over in the chat for everybody. Do feds have a bounty for self-snitching? That would be nice. Oh no. So at first, we didn't fully understand how bad the exposure was. Seeing broad API responses is one thing. Seeing what those objects actually represent was different. So a sampling of what was sitting there was a 3D virtual training course for naval maintenance personnel, featuring documentation explicitly marked confidential and proprietary. A training course containing Army field manuals on the safe handling Army sequences and tactical deployment of explosive ordnance. Hundreds of user records documenting the bases, emails, and full addresses of active U.S. service members, many of whom were enrolled in specific training courses that could be used to infer their roles and responsibilities. All right, so what were their efforts to disclose here? I'm very curious about this. So we immediately stopped testing and tried to disclose the vulnerability privately. The goal is always the patch. Good. Good on you. So December 2nd, they made first contact. Their initial reply from the CEO was, I would love to hear about this vulnerability but I assume you want to get paid for it. Is that the play? Okay, that's bad because the reason why I said up here, well, no, that wasn't it. Hang on. As soon as they said this, I mean, yes, they could be acting in good faith, but also they're doing unauthorized testing against that system. That was the whole purpose of bug bounties, was to do this kind of stuff. But the answer also should be, yeah, pay me. So we clarified that compensation was not required and that our priority was the safety of their users. We asked the appropriate channel to send the details. December 8th, so all through the entire month of December, we sent multiple follow-up emails warning that the vulnerability was critical and could be actively exploited, eventually looping in additional team members. We repeatedly asked where to send the report. They didn't. January 27th, so now we're going on 2 months here. This was December 2nd, now we're at the end of January. We independently verified the vulnerability was still live. May 1st. So we're talking December, January, February, March, April. 5 months. 5 months. We sent a final follow-up explaining that we were preparing to publish. Schemata responded, acknowledged that the affected endpoints were exposed, and they said they would patch the issue immediately. 152 days after initial the disclosure did they finally patch it. Oh my goodness. I hope, Strix guys, I hope you got them to sign an indemnity clause as part of that, because you're playing with fire there, just sending your little AI agent who is acting on your behalf and you have full legal requirements for its actions to just go off and do this. Sounds like Palantir didn't do their job. So the final outcome was good though. Schemata acknowledged the issue and fixed it before publication, but the disclosure process still matters. For 5 months, a critical vulnerability affecting defense sector users remained unresolved despite repeated private attempts to get basically in front of the right people. So we're publishing this for one reason. The users and customers affected by this exposure deserve enough information to protect themselves and ask the right questions. This should not become a reason to attack schemata that only teaches companies to hide security failures instead of fixing them. Well, I mean, you need to shame them a little bit. 152 days to respond to a very critical system. The CEO honestly needs his hand slapped a little bit. Just give him a good old, nun hand slap in there. The lesson is that having open disclosure channels, robust authorization testing, and incident response preparation needs to be a priority for all teams, especially those handling sensitive data. The problem was you talked to the CEO. Now I don't know if you had any better channels to go and do that. I'm not gonna give it them on Strix. That was the first problem, because the chances of a CEO follow up for something that's not making the company money or something that's going to make the company look bad is damn near zero. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. The other ones were kind of interesting, but nothing to do there. Close. All right, let's go see who is on InfoSec streams. No one. Just us. Just us, lowly late night hackers. So let's go find somebody we can raid over to. Let me see. Who's on? Rob is on. He's out doing IRL stuff. Let's see. Moo Hoodies is on. Oh, you know what? She's doing Astro News. We might go right over to her. Let's see. Science is also on. I do love the Science folks. What's Coppinger doing? Is he even online? I guess not. Computer Booter's on. Could always go raid Computer Booter. Can we watch IP maxing real quick? Okay, hang on. Let me go find it real fast. Yeah, we can check out IP maxing. Hold on. Where was that? All right, hang on.
I'm not trying to creep you guys out.
That weird thing, you're asking for an IP address.
I just want to know the IP address.
I don't know what are you
Just one more banana, please. I need my potassium.
It looks like a card skimmer or something.
It's not a card skimmer, it's a rainbit mainframe, dog. Why would I be card skimming?
Being weird.
I'm not trying to be weird, man.
Don't be asking for the IP address without being so weird, bro. This guy's freaking me.
What is this dude doing? He's just out there trying to cause trouble. All right, let's see. Anyway, let me find someone who's on that we might be able to go raid over to. Let's see. Braythorn's on. What's he doing? He's doing some Pokemans. Let's see. You know what? Let's go right over to Moo Hoodies. I don't know. What do y'all think? Moo Hoodies, who's doing space news, or let's see. Science is also on, doing a little bit of art, Q&A, talking about science and rabbit holes. Space news? I do like the space news. Space news. I wish, what's his name? The doctor guy. I hardly see him online anymore. Maybe I'm just catching him at the wrong time. But yeah, we'll go do some space news. Let's do that. Hang on, I'm gonna actually warn her. Yeah, Nerduino. I haven't seen him on it either, man. All right, guys, I got to wrap it up there. Everyone remember, Crushing It mode is still in full effect. We're only on Wednesday. And I hope y'all are all having a fantastic week. We've got 2 more days of Crushing It mode. Remember, Friday is read-only Crushing It mode. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I'm going to go get some sleep. I got stuff to do in the morning. Oh. They deleted the message. I sent a message to Muhidi saying, hey, we're gonna raid you, and the mod deleted it. Rude? That's all right. We're gonna do it anyway. Everyone, y'all take care. You have a fantastic week. Finish the week out strong. I will catch you all on Saturday. And I don't know what we'll do. We'll do some more hacking shenanigans. So I will catch up with you guys soon. Crush it mode, full effect. And remember, I love you. Peace.